All right, so what's happening, buddy? It started.
Okay.
All right, this is the show. So, as I told you before, we're just going to have a good time. We're going to talk about... I'm not wearing this.
Really?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to wear it. I don't like wearing it. You can wear it if you want, but you don't have to. Okay. So, for those of you that don't know, Friedman and myself, we go way back, and we do go by last name more often than by first name. And the reason why is because we were in the Marine Corps for an extended period of time. I did 2 combat deployments with this warrior, and he went on to do 3 more combat deployments, I believe. And some of the craziest stories that I have that I enjoy sharing with people since I've been out of the Marine Corps have been about Friedman here and some of the crazy things that he did. So, I'm excited to have you on the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Nathan.
No problem.
Schoemer.
All right, so what's on your mind?
Not a whole lot, man. I'm pretty excited for you and your podcast. This is exciting stuff, man. Good
so let's talk a little bit about some of the crazy things that you have experienced, because 5 combat deployments, okay. And also let's note that this is 5 combat deployments as infantry.
Marine Corps infantry.
Marine Corps infantry. So this isn't admin. This isn't, there's a lot of other MOSs that go over there, and we need them. But the ones that are on the ground, the ones that are kicking in the doors, the ones that are laying lead down range to make sure everybody can sleep peacefully at night is infantry.
They are the linemen of the military.
Tell me what are some crazy stories that come to mind besides ones that I was already there and saw it? So not the 2 first deployments, but the 3 that you did after that.
Actually, I was just telling I was watching something on TV today with my girlfriend, and it reminded me of something, and I told her the story, but then she just looked at me and she's like, I guess you just had to be there, but we were on a hilltop in Afghanistan, and we were doing a turnover with what the hell are they called? ANCOP, maybe something like that.
Which deployment was this?
Afghan forces, my 5th one, my last one.
Okay.
And it was the Kamari Plateau, and it was the S curve in the Upper Gresh Valley, and we overwatched this thing. And there was this place called the Glass House, and we always got attacked from it. That's where insurgents came out. We knew of it, and we had pretty interesting rules of engagement. We could basically return fire with small arms, no big deal, some medium machine guns, but to shoot a missile, you would have needed clearance from battalion or something like that. And we had just done a turnover, and it was like this one post was all Afghan forces. It was their post. And we start taking fire, and we're down below, and these guys start popping off rounds, pop. We get up to me and this kid Summers, who's one of my junior Marines. We get up to like this observation position, and then all of a sudden these guys from the Afghan forces, like none of us spoke Pashto, so I mean very little. Like Manana is like thank you. Banana. So they're like,
well, that's a lot like Iraq when everyone was just saying Eshta.
Shukran, thank you.
Alaikum salam.
Mr. the baby.
Yep, salam alaikum.
So they just out of nowhere they just yell RPG, and then they just shoot an RPG right out of the tower. It's like whoa, right into the glass house, and then they're gonna do it again, and they're like RPG, and they look at us, and I feel like they're like, I don't know if they're looking at us for approval, if they're just warning us they're shooting RPGs. But my junior Marine Summers, he's like a corporal, he's like RPG, just gives them the thumbs up, and they're like, and then they just kept doing it back and forth for like a minute. I was like, Summers, dude, stop yelling it back. You got to just let them yell what they're going to yell and do what they're going to do. But
was that his first deployment?
No, that was his like 2nd or 3rd. But man,
it wasn't that junior though. I mean,
no,
was he a corporal?
Corporal, yeah. No,
okay.
He'd seen some shit. Like it was more like it was just like, oh, that was such a shitty deployment. Like I don't know. How
long were you in Afghanistan for?
Oh God, I can't. It was like 7 months, something. The summer 2011, and we ended up getting out of there. I think October
Was that the only time you were
in Afghanistan? That was my last one. Yeah, I did 4 Iraq, 1 Afghanistan, and that last one, it was night and day between varsity and junior varsity. Like when the winter season kicked around, the cool weather came in.
So the combat was worse in Afghanistan.
Then where?
Than Iraq?
Than Iraq? I mean, it depends. Oh, in 2004, Iraq was, these people saw some shit. And then, it just depends where you were, who you are, and what you did.
Yeah.
Like, I mean...
Well, that's true. When our first deployment, when we went in for the invasion and crossed the line of departure, what was the going joke for quite a bit of time? So we were 1-4, 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, Bravo Company.
No War 1-4?
Yeah, no War 1-4. I thought for sure that was going to be the reality, too.
It was until Nasiriyah, but I mean, God knows how long that was. Because, I mean, when I talk about OIF-1, that's like... Yeah, you could count the gunfights we got into on maybe 1 or 2 hands. And
my 2 deployments, I only been in 11 firefights.
On 1 or 2 hands, but...
Afghanistan.
But, I mean, it was sleep deprivation. It was digging holes every night. I'm a fat guy. I was hungry a lot. We ran out of food. For a fat kid at heart, that was some shit, man.
The 1 MRE a day was brutal.
That's not enough food.
And people think that there's a lot of calories in an MRE, but...
I mean, there are.
Yeah, but you try
realistically, I mean, you can probably... I don't know how long you can survive. Here's some interesting shit. I don't know. How many anthrax shots did you get?
I don't know.
You got
6?
a bunch of series of anthrax
yes,
shots. So what were your expectations getting the anthrax shot if the enemy were to drop some anthrax on you?
You know what? I didn't even think about it, to be honest. I was just a knucklehead who did whatever the military said.
I mean, did you think it would be like, well, cool, I'm immune. I got the anthrax shot. Like, I'm immune. I'm good.
No, I never thought that.
It was like they give you that just to give you like a certain amount of hours of more fighting they're gonna get out of you before you die or whatever. You're like, that's it.
That is kind of crazy.
That's it. Just a couple more hours out of this.
You know, that is something,
enhancements. I got enhancements for my soldiers. For all those kids that play those Warcraft games on the computer or whatever.
You playing those games?
Upgrade enhancements. Sometimes on the iPhone, I'll download when I'm just like scrolling and their little Facebook suggested advertisement will come on and be like, you're going to like this game. But
yeah.
Maybe I'll do it.
I have such an addictive personality that I try to stay away from the video games because I'll get caught on a video game 8 hours later. I'm still playing.
I don't own a system. I only do the cell phone one.
Well, you know, it's funny. So it's easy to talk about military experiences. I don't want this entire episode to be about military, unless you want to talk more about military.
That's hard. You know what? There was years ago, and I was living with 2 other sergeants in a house in Yucca, and it was a time, let me tell you. And 3 single fellas. Anyway, there was a chick I was seeing at the time, and she's like, I was like, do I tell a lot of military stories? She's like, dude, that's all you fucking do. I'm like, really? I'm like,
really?
And then I started scrolling through my own Facebook shit. It's like military. Like, I mean, that was, for me, 18 to 28. Like, those are some significant years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I mean, 17 when I did the paperwork, I shipped finally. But 18, all my birthdays, like, I turned 19 in Baghdad, 20 at sea, 21 at sea.
Well, and that's all you do for an extended period of time.
Yeah. Let me figure this out because I'm studying, as you know, my credentials. If we're gonna throw the resumes on the table, I'm Micah Friedman, and I am a semester shy of having a bachelor's in criminal justice with a minor in public administration.
Out in Iraq, you were also the entertainer. You came up with a song about our company gunny or company first sergeant. That was our first sergeant, right?
It was all of them, man. I started doing that probably in military school. I'd be jamming out on the guitar, but it'd be like some random 4/3 chord song that was super easy. It was like Closing Time or something else, and then just.
Did you keep playing the guitar on your last 3 deployments?
Oh. Well, they all were different. My third one, we had a guitar because we lived at the Haditha Dam, And so, I mean, you'd be out for days on end. You wouldn't have that shit there. You'd be out dodging IEDs. That was a shitty one. And then you'd be back at the Haditha Dam for a couple days. And we had guitars going around and we jam out and have a good time. But then my probably the fourth tour, we were living at it. Yeah, it was the troop surge. It was great. We were on a boat heading to Iraq and they were given swear to God, one of the most annoying things about the military. Tell me you didn't find this. Sometimes it was all right, but it was after a while you're you knew you were going to war. You knew we were doing a deployment, but I'll be goddamned if every leader didn't want to have their Braveheart moment. Their William Wallace, where they're just oh shit, the captain's done with them, the lieutenant's done with them. It's my turn to give my brave. Fucking, I just want to go home, dude. Come on. But this is how the beginning of his motto speech went. And he was talking to, I would say, about 100 Marines. Gentlemen, we're all going to die. Good to go? I guess, I don't know what to do with that. He had my attention. It turned out he turned this speech around over the course of about 45 minutes, but the point was, eventually at some point in time, we're all going to die. So, be brave, heroic, and all the other...
Wait, which deployment was that?
I don't know if I should say, because that's gonna narrow it down.
Oh, it's going to narrow it down?
That's going to narrow it down. I'd have to even think about it, which one that was.
Okay, well, what about some of... You had a few posts on Facebook about...
where are we going?
I believe what you're studying, criminal justice and things like that, and you ran into an issue that wasn't very...
If I have my platform and my moment in time, here we go, baby. So, he didn't even know. That day, that guy, so here's what's happening. Old Friedman's on his way home. Okay, once again, the before and after in these stories, that's irrelevant. But I'm traveling, and you came here. How would you describe the roads in the area, the surrounding area?
Well, ironically enough, on one of the roads driving out here, I actually said to Erica there were certain sections that reminded me of Iraq.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like Middle East, but it's long. It's irrigation fields, canals, all the stuff the palm groves. That is hilarious. Yeah, that takes some getting used to, especially when dove season kicks off and everyone's but there it's long single dotted line highway roads where you get stuck behind someone, you're gonna be behind for a minute until you hit the passing, you see the dotted lines. So I'm going, and this fella is going well below the speed limit, and it's a dotted line section, and I get over, I pull up. Here's an interesting. I don't know if I want to. So I won't admit that I went beyond the speed limit because that would be illegal, but. Let's just say this guy starts to speed up as I go around him like a dick. So I'm whatever. I hit it. I get around the fella. I'm whatever. So I get down the road, and all of a sudden, I see this cop car on the left, and he's got his hazards flashing. And I go up, and I go by him, and he turns his little lights on, and he gets behind me, and I'm what the fuck? And he pulls me over, and I get over. Rolls down the window, and he's all, license and registration, please. And I'm may I know I've been pulled over? And he's oh, you'll see. And I'm actually, that's this criminal justice student. I'm that's not correct. You actually have to tell me why you pulled me over. It's just one of them things. So he's and I hand him my license and registration. I'm not gonna be non-compliant. And he's oh, some other officer called me and he said he saw you driving erratically. Well, that's simply just not true. And he's do you have anything illegal in the car? I'm hate to do it again, big dog. But Fourth Amendment, you don't have any probable cause. You're not gonna search my car. I don't know what to tell you. And then he goes back.
Yeah,
you can talk.
Yeah. At the time,
Because this kind of...
At the time, I was driving a bulletproof Mercedes S420. So,
Full tinted windows.
listen. So we're down here on the Mexican border, the California Mexican border, and there was an advertisement for a bulletproof Mercedes. Where was it? Like Craigslist. And it was like the original owner. And here it is. It was a 90. It was a 96 or 95 or 96. And
wait, do you still have it?
No. So after this whole, I got. Don't air what kind of car we have. After this all went down, I gotta finish the story with the cop. But after this all went, I got rid of that fucking car. Yeah. After this incident, I got rid of that shit.
Because it just attracted.
Yeah, no, it was like, so I don't know what the story was, but this guy's like, so the car, I looked it up, it was originally like $150,000. Like, you bought that thing in 96 brand new, it was like, 95. No, 95, 96, but it was like, so, okay, hold on, so let me clarify that. It would be equivalent to buying a $100,000 car today. I think it was like $70,000 or $80,000. But it had a bunch of miles on it. There was some other shit that went wrong with it. But so I don't know what the story was. I don't know why the dude had it, but it was like the original. It was and I peeled off some hundos. I was like, here you go, fella. So that was that. That was that.
So, all right, so
where are we? So
asked to search your vehicle.
So I'm driving a car that the police want to profile as potentially suspicious vehicle. Oh, come on.
No?
Oh, what?
Drug dealer. Cartel down here.
You know what everyone asked me? They're like, why do you have a bulletproof car? I'd be like, well, why don't you have a bulletproof car? Like really? Wouldn't you, if like you had the option between I get this car, and this one's bulletproof, wouldn't you be like, meh?
For that off chance you drive by a shooting?
Who knows?
You never know.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
Have you seen the mines?
Well, let's say going back to the searching. He was asking to search your vehicle.
He wanted to search my vehicles, and I wasn't having it. So he went back. The off-duty guy pulled up in his fucking car, and then his supervisor showed up. Now the supervisor is a squared away fella. I still have a hard time pronouncing. Met him once before. He pulled me over on one of these roads, and I admit I was going a little faster than you should have.
Yeah, but you're not a troublemaker.
I'm not like a habitual troublemaker, so to speak. But
yeah, not at all.
So the dude gave me a ticket, and here's the deal: you got me dead to rights. I was speeding. You got me dead to rights. I pull over. I know a bunch of stuff that made me uncomfortable about pulling vehicles over in Iraq. So one of the things I do is I roll all the windows down in my car so they can see in. I pull over to the side. Real good to the side, so they're safe, because you don't want this asshole to get sideswiped by some idiot coming up because he wants to pull you over for a taillight, because then they're going to blame that shit on you. So you get your car as far off the road as you can, so this idiot can get somewhere safe, and he can come pull you over. You have all the windows down, keep your hands where you can see them, and I do this even when fucking Choi pulled up on me. So, but I done that when the corporal guy had caught me speeding, and he was super cool. Gave me a warning. Didn't even give me a ticket. Gave me a warning. Because I had my hands up. He's like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, go to school on the GI Bill. He's like, oh, cool. Here's a warning. Slow it down. Thank you. Roll up my windows, go on this way. That's the supervisor that shows up out there or whatever. And he's like, all right. I know this guy. Hold on. And then he's like, what happened? I tell him what happened. He's like, fuck. He's like, Choi's like a brand new cop. He's like, but he's like, I gotta back him up. He's like, let me reverse a little bit. He walks up to my vehicle on the side, and he's like, have you step out of the vehicle? And I'm like, may I know why I'm getting out of the vehicle? He's like, yeah, you're being placed under arrest. I was like, well, that's fair enough.
Well,
like,
this is the supervisor.
Yeah,
this is the current situation.
I don't think he knows it's me yet. I don't think he knows it's me. He walks up. He gets a briefing from Choi and Granado. Granado's the bad guy.
About not allowing them to search the vehicle.
About, the whole thing. The whole kit and caboodle. And he walks up, and I got my window down. He's like, "Good evening," super cordial. "Good evening," you know. And he's like, "Can you get out of the car?" I'm like, "Man, I know why." He's like, "You're being arrested." I'm like, "Well, that's a legitimate reason to get out of the car." So I get out of the car, and then he wants to do a Terry search.
But did you say why you're being arrested?
I believe he did tell me I was being arrested for reckless driving. Think he did. He said I was being arrested. I knew that's reason enough to get out of the car. I'm being arrested for something. He's gonna have to tell me about the charges. You're right. You're probably right. I probably should have been more up on that. Like, what's the charge? But I'm like, he's going with the "you're getting arrested, get out." So
Is that pee in the trunk?
huh?
Did you pee in the trunk?
Pee and what?
Is it the water bottles or pee in that?
Oh, probably. I don't know. Because I've been road tripping on the vehicle. No, they get to search. They get to search it. They get to search the car. They get to search the car. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Where was I? I'm being arrested, and he's like, I'm gonna give you a Terry search. They could do a Terry search.
What's a Terry search?
A Terry v. Ohio is a ruling. This fella, Terry and some of his fellas were casing outside of the liquor store. Now let me explain this to you. This is my beef with criminal justice today in America, and as I'm studying it in school and what you're happening. And I've studied this case in 3 or 4 different classes. One is from a constitutional law class from an actual sitting judge. And what had happened was this officer was able to articulate what he saw. What he had seen was early morning hours. I want to say in Chicago or something. Got to get the details right. Usually you read cases before you talk about them, before you brief them. He sees a couple gentlemen outside of a liquor store, I want to say it is. And it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, Chicago. One of them's like on the corner, what he described as possibly a lookout. One of them's walking over, talking to him, walking back over to the window, looking in the store, walking back over to the window, talking to him, walking back over. Like this, he says this goes on a couple times of doing Terry v. Ohio justice. I brought it up on case file, so how you would look at how you would brief it and read it. It'd be like, this was decided by the Supreme Court in 67. Give you the case. The docket argued December 12, 67. Facts of the case. Terry and 2 other men were observed by a plainclothes. So there's a bunch of key things you have to learn. Okay, plainclothes policeman. All right, so he's not wearing a uniform. Plainclothes policeman. So that's an interesting. So, all right. Plainclothes policeman in what officers believe to be casing job, a stick up. The officers stopped. Okay, so hold on. They don't give you all the... All right, now I got to articulate it. That's BS. They give you a really brief synopsis of it.
Well,
so,
let's go back to the original story, maybe.
We'll get there. He was able to articulate that he saw this kid casing a liquor store or whatever, back and forth, looking, talking to his lookout, this, that, and the other, and he did a limited search. He patted him down around the waistband, and he felt a hard metal object he believed to be a gun. He pulled it out. Sure enough, it was a gun. Arrested him. His lawyers argued Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search and seizure. You have the right to be secure in your possession. No person should be searched unless probable cause or a warrant signed off by a judge, so on and so forth. So they were able to articulate that what they saw was enough to do, and the judges, eventually the Supreme Court's, the question. So how they facts of the case gave you that question. Was the search and seizure of Terry and the other man in violation of the Fourth Amendment? In an 8-1 decision, the court held that the search undertaken by the officer was reasonable under the Fourth Amendment, and that the weapon seized could be introduced as evidence against Terry. Attempts to focus narrowly on the facts of this particular case, the court found that the officer acted on more than a hunch, and that a reasonable, prudent man would have been warranted in believing Terry was armed and thus presented a threat. And that kind of thing outweighs the thing. So, fast forward to the day and age of New York City. The New York City Police Department takes that decision. They go, we can stop and fucking frisk anybody walking down the street for a gun or whatever. And that's basically what stop and frisk was. I mean, it's like, but they can do what they want until somebody gets arrested with enough money to put up a fight and say, fuck you, I'm not going to take that. And then the courts, in some cases, back down or whatever. But in most cases, the poor don't have that option. In most cases, the poor are minorities, and they don't have that option to have someone. I mean, you get your public defender, and the guy's overworked, and maybe he fights it hard, maybe he doesn't, maybe you're guilty, maybe you're, like, I don't know. That's why I'm gonna be. That's my goal, is to be a public defender. If you don't know if you don't know your shit.
Well, there's a lot of things that I learned just from watching a lot of these documentaries that have been coming out on Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot about, there was this one, I don't remember what it's called, but it's basically about people that were wrongfully convicted and years later they were released from prison. And some of the evidence that they get them on, and then the biggest problem that I see, it's the authority bias. They take their
words bond, and then there's no better case in point of that than if you get a ticket, because a ticket, you're not facing incarceration. Okay, you're not looking at jail time. The only time you rate a public defender is if you're actually facing incarceration, like time behind bars. So they look at a traffic ticket as a misdemeanor thing. You can plead not guilty, but you're on your own. It's your word against the cop. And if you say, I learned that too, if you say, I didn't do it, and he says you did it, that's beyond a reasonable doubt. Unless you can present something else. Another thing, like, that's it. And you're like, that's bullshit.
And the thing is, when it's something
just money. It's just money. You're like,
yeah.
They're like, you're going to pay your $100 fine today, and you're going to go home, and you're like, fuck you.
When it's small, most people will just pay it. They're not going to fight it.
They're not,
but that's what's scary about the authority bias, and I didn't even know that until I watched these documentaries where they basically bargain with these people, and the person's in a position
that's
where...
That's all it is. The
right,
system, it's 80% plea bargaining. 20% actually sees trial. If everybody in the criminal justice system right now said, I'm not guilty and demanded a trial, the criminal justice system would come to a crippling halt. It is incapable of dealing with that. It is all plea bargaining.
And a lot of it, they could even be innocent. That was the thing that freaked me out. So it's a lot of these people, they are in a position where they could be innocent.
I wish I had the name. See, I need to be better. I need to be better with names. I'm so terrible at remembering names. But it's a professional NBA basketball player who got rolled up for something, and he got arrested for like straight up resisting arrest amongst other charges outside of like a nightclub in New York. I want to say, or somewhere else. And I'm sure I'm getting all the details wrong. But he went to trial. He hired an expensive attorney. And I can explain in my own story. There's a portion called pretrial conferences. For this one particular arrest on the reckless driving, I had 4 or 5 different court appearances, and some of those are pretrial conferences, and it's like, it's negotiation. It's trying to flex.
Did you represent yourself?
Nope. I pled not guilty. They looked over my finances and said, yeah, you rate a public defender. So I'm like, I'm a poor disabled veteran, bro. I don't make any money. I'm homeless.
I'm going to school.
Please, mister. No, like, yeah. And so they gave me a public defender. But I had been working. So here's the other crazy thing. I guess I got to finish the story eventually. But they have 1 year from the date of arrest of reckless driving to bring you to trial, to bring me to court. And if they don't, that's the statute, and they can't ever charge me. So it was like 2 or 3 days before the year had happened that they gave me a thing that was like, yeah, this is your court date. You need to be here this time. We're bringing charges against you.
So yeah, all right. I know you said you want to finish the rest of the story.
I don't even remember where we are. Terry search.
The last thing, yeah, it was the Terry search. But I do want to quickly mention about, because I'm curious to see what your opinion is on this since you've been studying criminal justice. And this is something, I can't remember the name of the documentary, but I was on a roll where I was watching just one criminal documentary after the next.
Oh, man, is it the Netflix one?
This is something about, it's life in prison or living in prison or something like that. No. And basically it's about how so many people are wrongfully convicted, and a lot of them take the plea bargain because they're basically told by somebody, you're innocent.
Yeah.
But if you take the plea bargain, you're going to get 5 years.
Well,
If
that
you
was
fight
when I was the NBA guy. They told him a bunch of times during all that pretrial stuff. They were like, "So here's the deal: plead not guilty, or plead guilty. It's nothing. We'll give you unsupervised probation, community service, like nothing." And it was like if you go to trial on resisting arrest, it was like some time in jail or whatever, and you don't know what a jury's going to do. No one does. So like that's if you're like, man, I can either face jail time and try and plead my case against this cop who said I was resisting arrest, or I can plead guilty and do some community service and it won't even go on my record or anything. And like, yeah, that's a very tempting time to be like, yeah, I'll take the guilty plea. Yeah. So his lawyer even said it. He's paying this NBA player gets this expensive lawyer, and his lawyer's like, take the goddamn deal. He's like, I'll go to trial with you, but I'm telling you, on a resisting arrest charge or whatever, I've never seen anything such as good a deal as this. Like, take the deal or whatever. He's like, nope. He's like, I'm going to trial.
And think about how worse it is, though, for somebody who's facing possibly life.
It's like in his prime years. There's only so many years that you have on the shelf.
I mean, it's terrifying. I actually
basketball.
got into an argument, not an argument, but a conversation, because I watched it and I thought to myself, if we were going to try to fix that, how are we going to fix it? And what you said made me think about this. The jury, we don't know what the jury is going to do, right?
Yeah.
So it's a jury, your peers, so on and so forth, but it's the authority bias, the judge is on a pedestal, and then the what's the side that is on the state side, the prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
They are also held on a pedestal. It's the state against Micah Friedman. The state against.
Oh, that's it, dude. And they have unlimited resources.
Right.
They have unlimited resources to bring that case against you. And if you look at the conviction rates, California has like an 80-90% conviction rate. The federal government, they have an 80-90% conviction rate. So like they know what they're doing.
And this may sound silly, so I'm kind of curious, someone from your perspective with education on it.
Yeah.
But I thought this would be a problem solver. With everybody who's on the jury, if they are not willing, if not one, so only one person, not the entire group, but one person has to say, okay, if we are wrong on accusing this person of being guilty, if we are wrong and that evidence comes up later, I will take his position.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're not going to get that. There's no way.
You see, like, if you're I personally feel like if you're in a position, if you're not willing, if you do not have that much
confidence in your decision.
Yeah, because you're going to send someone away for 5 years, 10 years.
So, I mean, there's supposed to be there's a high burden of proof.
Yeah, without a
beyond
reasonable
doubt. And then in capital cases, like in some of the more serious ones, you have to have a unanimous decision from all the jurors. Mm-hmm. If one or two of them says no, like then you have a hung jury. Like that happened in Cosby's first trial.
Couldn't that be pressured? I mean, these people could be pressured.
I mean, yeah, for sure, and that happens as well. People want to go home, but you know, like it's what we got. It's the system. But,
and what about? So, are you familiar with the staircase murder?
Yeah.
There was another documentary on that.
Yeah. Here's the deal. If he didn't have two dead wives, I might.
I know.
You're like, I know, right?
I know.
He blew his money. I feel like that's like karma. Like
the problem though is the DNA blood splatter expert that falsified.
The problem is
what
that guy was a piece of shit. Like I took a basic in my pursuit of my law degree and getting my undergraduate here. I've taken a forensic science class and like I literally have done some like blood spatter type stuff where they show you and like I'm like, what the fuck is that guy doing? Like if you just did a 101 class, I feel like you would have had more than what the guy he's like, yeah, and like he's like trying to get it. He's like, this is how it happened. He's like, splatter. He's like, no, I get that. He's like, oh, and he's just like all covered up. I'm like, there's no science to what you're doing whatsoever. But you put him on the stand. You say this guy's the
DNA expert.
It's the FBI thing, and there's supposed to be a Kelly Fry standard, and that's the thing. So in you get a public defender. He's not going to have the ability. It's called voir dire to examine this guy's credentials to be like, show me how you're an expert. Like show, and then this, that, and the other, and then. You have a private defense, you hire someone else who's like, see, this is what an actual guy would do who actually does science. What do you think about that? And he's like, oh, But if you're poor, you don't have that.
And again, though, that's the
Yeah.
authority bias because he
Yeah.
actually did hire a DNA blood splatter expert,
Yeah.
and that person was completely.
No, he
He
did
did.
for the retrials. He did for the retrials.
No, he
did
did on
have
the
one in the original one.
He did. And the guy came out and he said, based on my expertise and what I know, but here was the thing: the jury believed the.
It's been a while.
Yeah, they believed
well,
the
for
DNA
sure. That
expert
happens,
or the
totally.
DNA blood splatter expert from the prosecution side because that is the state. And a lot of them even said we only determine guilty based on the evidence that he proved in court, or not proved but stated.
I think both defense and prosecution are aware that juries like to do the whole CSI problem solve, and they're like, putting it on a board, and they're like, they get this nice, neat picture. They're like, well, that's how it happened. The defense, they don't realize that it's not the other way. Like, you have to prove that happened beyond a reasonable doubt to exclude all other possibilities. Like, and like, so, I don't know. There's some problems. I'm looking forward to being a public defender for a while. Anyway, like that's I'm gonna do it for at least a couple of years. I'm looking at that's gonna be my boot cycle, where you just figure out all the ins and outs of that's the trenches, the grunt work, the doing that. Well, all these cases, when you hear about your Miranda rights, people don't realize the Stella. People don't realize that Miranda was a murdering rapist. I believe. I'd have to look up. He was accused
It's
of
probably the
murder.
girl that got kidnapped. They don't usually typically do it after the asshole. Like.
He wasn't a
Megan's
good
Law, it was
Miranda.
Megan who
Yeah.
got kidnapped.
Well, yeah.
Miranda
wasn't. He
probably-
wasn't necessarily a good guy, but we got a bunch of good rights that come out of it. So like that's like your Miranda rights are important. So that the one Netflix thing though, I didn't like Making a Murderer. I feel like that kid was just. I can't use the R word anymore. Everyone's so offensive. But if I could,
You mean,
if I could use the R word,
Easily offended.
if I could use the R word, it's now 2019. I would use it to describe this kid.
Yeah,
But everyone in that is an R word.
I wasn't a fan of Making a
R
Murderer
word.
either. I watched all the
Yeah.
different documentaries. I
So,
was on a roll. Yeah.
but why the Miranda thing's so important? Why it's like you can see how the one kid they pulled out of school, and they're like totally just leading him. They're like, this happened, and then this, you got to tell. Like they were like eventually getting this kid with a low IQ to say exactly what they wanted him to say. Whatever.
Oh, those interrogations are crazy.
You need to understand, like, you have the right to not say anything and get a lawyer right now. Like, if they have interesting ways. They teach police how to get around, like, how you get it out. They're like, did you Miranda them? They're like, got it out of the way. But, like, what if you were to sit down and be like, dude, you're in big trouble, and you can have a lawyer and you can stop talking to me right now and you can get that lawyer and then have him there for all the questions for your own protection
But
and
they won't do
stuff. Like, and that's really what you should do. Best, like, they're like, hey man, they're like, is it cool if we talk for a minute? They're like, you don't have to, but like, they're just the guilty people really don't or whatever. Do you want your lawyer? You want a lawyer, huh? Let me, do you have a private attorney? First off, do you have a private attorney I should know about? No? You want me to go find...
there's a great bit by Tom Segura where he's talking about the first 48. And at the very end, he says, you know what I learned from the first 48? If you're ever in some shit, lawyer up.
Lawyer the fuck up.
He goes,
Lawyer
everybody
the
who
fuck
said...
up.
He goes, I've watched about 80 episodes. And there's maybe 3 where the person says, can I have a lawyer? And every detective is like, fuck!
Like, end of the episode's over.
Yeah.
Episode.
All charges were dropped.
That's where the episode ended, right there, because they asked for an attorney. Yeah, that's basically what happens.
So you get out of the car for the Terry search.
Terry searched. There we are. I don't know. Maybe you can chop and edit this so the story makes more sense.
It doesn't matter.
So he's patting me down. I don't have a gun. And I even say, he's like, I'm going to do a Terry search on you. And I'm like, Terry v. Ohio, baby. Pat away. Like, I referenced it, man. And he patted me down. He's like, we're arresting you for reckless driving. He's like, I'm gonna give you a cite and release. Those two wanted me because they could have arrested me and taken me in and printed me and put me in jail before I saw a judge to get out on bail and so on and so forth. But the supervisor was like, give him a cite and release. And they gave me a cite and release. But they can impound my car because I've been arrested. In California, if you're arrested for reckless driving, you can get your vehicle impounded. And my vehicle was impounded there on the scene. So, one of the things California is allowed to do with an impounded vehicle is to search it. Well, not search it, inventory it. So they're going to inventory the contents to make sure that everything's there and you can sign for it in the morning time and everything's no harm, no foul. So they inventory my vehicle. I'd been road tripping with that vehicle for a while, so there was definitely a piss bottle in there, and I'm sure they were not thrilled about that or whatever. So here's the fucked up thing. So I didn't have anything in my car. They don't find anything, but I do get a court date, and I'm now facing reckless driving charges, which in California carries with it, if I remember correctly, $2,000 in fines and up to 3 months in jail. So I could go to jail for 3 months, realistically, off this incident. And that's with them searching my car and not finding anything. That's with some off-duty cop saying that I was recklessly driving, a menace to society, if you will. And so I go to get my car out of impound. First off, I had to pay $125 to the city of Imperial to get a piece of paper that said I paid this fine. I can get my shit out of impound. Then I had to go to the impound guy who's like, yo, it's $300 or something for the impound. I have to pay this tow truck guy to tow my shit. And then sitting there for a minute with old Glenna, we're sitting there and we're like, hey,
Old Lena. Old Saint Nick.
so we're sitting there for a minute, but this guy's not bringing the car around. He's not bringing the car around.
Like 15 minutes.
It's been a minute, and he's not bringing the car around, and I'm like, what the fuck? So I go into the lot, I go hunting for this guy, and fucking he can't get it started. He's like, I don't know what's wrong with it or whatever. He's like, I can't get it started. I'm like, fuck you can't get it started. It was driving when I got fucking pulled over and shit.
Recklessly.
Recklessly. And now all of a sudden it doesn't work. So I was getting heated, but they actually were cool. And they're like, they knew some fucked up shit had happened. They're like, we'll tow it. You're right, I'm going to take these off. They're ridiculous. They're like, we'll tow it to wherever you want to. We'll tow it to wherever you want to tow it to. And I tow it to my guy. And he's like, there's some shit wrong with something with some of the cables had been messed up or whatever. So he puts some cables back together. It was suspicious to say the least. But it was a piece of shit 96 bulletproof Mercedes. Like, what are you gonna do? 95. So I get it up and running, and I figure out the only real recourse I have at this point in time is on the. And this is an interesting thing. You should look. If you ever have an issue, you need to look for your local police department and see if they have a complaint. That's start number one is file a complaint against what happened to you.
Hold on. I feel like the first people that contacted you was the DMV. Did you go over that already?
No, not them. Not them yet. Not
Sure?
them. They're
like the
coming.
DMV
I didn't even know about them. Like,
They
it was like the
contacted
day.
you before
It was. I was so pissed about the money. It was like the day or two after that I filed, and I don't want to say I consulted a lawyer. I don't want to say who it was, but I have a lawyer at my discretion. I have some friends. I got some friends and some famdango. So,
in higher places.
And they sent me this form. They're like, fill this fucking thing out. Like, print it off, fill it out, make it look good, you know. And I filled it out. I explained what happened, you know, basically what I said, and
Their investigator contacted you and told you to do that after you'd already talked to them.
No, their investigator came out. Their investigator, so they actually the investigator came out off that thing and took my statement against this cop. So Granado, badge 408 from the Imperial Police Department. I'll put that bitch on blast.
He's already killed a man.
He's fucking beat and tased a veteran to death. He pulled a veteran over for DUI. Kid probably shouldn't have been drinking. Roger that. Drinking and driving. Dumb. And he's going to say he resists him. He's in fucking handcuffs. And he ends up getting beaten and tased to death. No charges come to Granado, but they paid $600K out to the kid's family or whatever. Granado's still... And like, everyone I talk to locally is like, well, that guy's a fuckface. Like, that guy's a piece of shit. Like, this.
He's still working?
Like, still working now.
Did you see the video of the officer that shoots the kid in the hallway at the hotel?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that kid was a pussy. He didn't get any charges either.
That was like, unbelievable.
I put my meme was there's a Twister one of that kid on his knees on a Twister board with his hands up.
I mean, that video was unbelievable, though, because the guy giving directions was not giving directions
get
very
up,
clearly.
Get down. You gotta get up to get down.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna fucking
God.
shoot you. Get on up, get down. I'm gonna do it.
That was horrible.
Crazy.
I felt bad for that kid. You could tell he was terrified.
Yeah, he was scared.
And that kid, and somehow that officer, who was a kid, gets away, and in the ejection port cover of his rifle said, kill him or something like that.
Oh, yeah, those are the ones, man. They're the,
So those that don't know, on a M16, that was an AR-14, right? AR-15, whatever it was. But the ejection port cover, when it's open, is where he had written
some moto thing. People that put goofies, they're like the Spurs, the Cowboys, the bells, the whistles.
But he obviously wanted to shoot. He wanted to shoot someone.
I feel like if you look at that, he had killed some. He's got some bodies under his. He had some bodies. He had some numbers. He killed a few.
Probably
under the thing. Yeah, don't quote me. Whatever. Where are we going with that?
Well, we were still on being searched. We were on the...
No, I was arrested. I was released. Got my car back.
Yep.
Filed the complaint. The investigator came out, took my story, did some research.
And the DMV calling.
Guy killed. So then I get a letter in the mail. Driving's a privilege. It's not a right, first of all. Everyone should know that. Driving is a privilege. There's not a constitutional right to operate a motor vehicle. It's a privilege, if you will.
Is that how they put it to you?
No, that's just fact. Like, that's just the law in the matter. So anyway, I get a note from DMV. It says I get a hearing date for my suspended license. Oh, they're going to suspend my shit for reckless driving. So they're like, you get a suspension hearing. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, what happened to due process? Well, I haven't even had a court date yet. Like, what the fuck, over? So the first day comes around, and it's this lady, and she's like, oh, I'm the hearing officer. This is being recorded, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, give me your side of the story. And I tell her what happened. And she's like, so you're contesting this? I was like, yeah, I'm contesting this. And I read my statement. I told her I'd filed a complaint with the police department that this guy was shady. He was off duty, like all this stuff. So they're like, well, all right, then we get a continuance to get them up, their side of the story. So they give me another date for the DMV hearing. That date rolls around, and they're like, she calls me a few hours before, and she's like, Mr. Friedman. I'm like, yeah. She's like, we're going to have to push this again. I'm like, really? I'm like, what's the story? She's like, well, apparently Officer Granado is on administrative leave at this time, or whatever, and he won't be able to testify. So they're finding Officer Choi, and we're going to set another date, or whatever. Choi was the uniform officer. His name's on the ticket, and that hearing came around again. Choi said he didn't see anything. He was just following Granado's directions, and the DMV finally dismissed it. But that could have been a separate thing. I could have lost my license altogether. That worked out in my favor. But I couldn't believe that's the whole thing I had to deal with on my own. That's
How long was the suspension?
I think a year, 6 months or a year. And they sent me a thing. Because you had all these rights for a DMV. So it's not like a completely arbitrary process. You have a DMV hearing. So they sent me all this information. I watched hours of PowerPoints on driving law and stuff like that in preparation
they sent you
for
all the paperwork that the police had.
right?
Yo, and they sent me all the paperwork because I had never seen anything like you're supposed to be entitled to all this stuff.
Terrible.
So I had finally got to see firsthand some of the paperwork, and I got to see a statement Granado had written where he had said I had driven on the other side of the road and other cars were swerving like off the side of the road into ditches, and multiple cars were like.
That's what his report read.
His report had said that was what was going on.
And when you looked up on the Imperial Police Department page, what does it specifically say about policemen
I can't get
off-duty?
all my facts together. So when I filed the complaint against the police, I looked up in the Imperial Police Handbook the duty or the conduct for an off-duty police officer, and it specifically says an off-duty police officer should not involve himself in minor traffic incidents such as reckless driving or DUI.
They don't
Instead,
say call
they
your
should
buddy.
call 911, call 911, the dispatch, call purpose personnel, and report
like that was
it
big
or whatever. That was probably the deciding factor in all this. But yeah, he didn't do that. He had called his friend.
This guy out to get
He
you.
called his rookie. He's just a cowboy. He'd call. Like I said, this originated because I passed him. He was going below the speed limit. I wanted to pass him. My only conclusion is this guy was like, "Who the fuck does this kid think he is passing me? Like, I set the speed limit. I'm an off-duty police officer. Like,
an ego too large."
that's the only thing I can think of. That's the only thing I can think of. Literally the only thing I can think of. Won the DMV. He's on administrative leave.
Calling the DA.
Now, I keep calling the DA. I called the DA every month for a year. So this is like a lot of legwork. And like I said, I'm studying it. I have teachers to bounce things off of. Like,
Judges.
Judges
to
no,
bounce
the judge never helped. He was super, he had a lot of integrity. And his class was, class was ethics. No, I talked as general as I could, but he definitely was like, look it up, like read a book. Like he wouldn't talk about some stuff.
Well, it's unfortunate that there are so many highly qualified professional people within the law enforcement system and the court system, and then you just have a couple knuckleheads that ruin it for everyone.
Yeah, no, and so when I post about this on Facebook, I get just an onslaught.
Well, a lot of our friends are police
that are
officers or sheriffs and things like that.
So here's the deal. Currently, 1% of the U.S. population is in the military, active duty. 7 to 9% of the population is a veteran of some sort, has ever served in the military or whatever. Like, of that, how many do you think are cops?
What percentage of the population are police officers?
Or like, what percent of police officers do you think are veterans?
Do you know the percentage? First of all, the entire
police officers. I think there's if I had to look it up, I want to say there's 1 million cops. Google it. There's a million. There's 1 million sworn law enforcement officers to protect 365 million.
So
people
the population
in
total
is 365 million people in America.
And so if there's 1 million, let's say roughly 1 million, so that's
law enforcement officers.
Way less than 1%.
That's what they brag about. That's their claim to fame. Is they're the thin blue.
Just 6% of the population at large has served in the military.
Yeah. Get to the how many?
19% of police officers are veterans.
They're saying 19% of police officers are veterans.
Total,
That's total. But give me how many cops are there in America? That's their claim to fame. They're the thin blue line that protects us from total.
It says upwards of 30% of Vietnam veterans and 10 to 20%.
I mean, I understand it. I understand the ones that are cautious. I understand.
Dude, what my point is, our buds make up an astronomically low percentage of police officers.
Veterans.
Yeah. Our Marine Corps, infantry, combat veteran friends
that are police
officers individually in their own departments across America represent one of the smallest minorities. Like they're the 1%er of like the pure truest officer, like who you would want to be a law enforcement officer. who when you close your eyes at night and you're like, I can create this ideal law enforcement officer. That's who you want. Is those guys?
You see
not who the fuck is out there.
You see Brent
Downey. Get down, dude, now.
That guy is the ideal, perfect warrior,
a specimen,
perfect Marine, perfect officer. He's
like Dolph Lundgren. Like he's just like a pure specimen of a human being. You're like, and then he's just got that, like that.
But if I was doing the job though, I would be cautious. You know what I mean? Across any situation,
absolutely. I'd be cautious. I wouldn't want to. That's one of the main reasons why straight up I won't do it.
It's a tough job.
After 5 tours, I will cap a bitch. He'll sneeze funny and I'll shoot him in the head.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen the video of? They say it was a Vietnam veteran. I don't know whether or not that's true, but it's a police training video that they show current police officers, at least from my understanding. And this officer pulls over this man in a truck, and the man in the truck is supposedly a Vietnam veteran, and he gets out and starts dancing around, and the police officer tries to call it in. And then the man goes back to his vehicle, and the police officer is telling him, hey, I need to see your hands. I need to see your hands. I need to see your hands.
Is he a sovereign citizen?
And then the guy pulls out a rifle and starts shooting at the police officer. In that video, that officer dies, and the guy drives off.
So, like, there's some shit they have to deal with. If I could plug, no, I mean,
you see a video like that.
I don't think I can say that. I don't want to drop their. I don't want to name drop. But
I'm being devil's advocate.
I got buds in the LAPD. Like gang task force that I was like in Iraq with, and they've had to move. They've had to move to a new house because bad guys found out where their personal home was and was like fucking with their family. Like, it's some real shit. There's some real shit that goes down, and it sucks because of the. It's the same shit we had to deal with though. The strategic lance corporal. You act like every time we pulled the trigger, we didn't have the same realistic shit we would have to deal with overseas that they have to deal with. Maybe there's a little more scrutiny here back home, but like if you shot someone, you knew there was an investigation. You couldn't just arbitrarily shoot someone. Even in a gunfight, anything which you want, you gave an after action report.
There was an after action report.
You put your name on something.
Yeah, but I mean, if we were in a firefight like in the Joff Cemetery,
yeah.
Okay,
2000. Okay, so let me.
Same with.
Let me put a caveat to that.
Some of those convoys that we were on.
Starting in like 2005, you couldn't shoot anybody.
Okay, yeah.
Starting in like 2005.
There were times when we were driving in our convoy going from wherever to wherever, point A to point B, and we would hit contact right, and there's just a ton of buildings to our right side, and we can't even see anybody. No, that's true. But we're firing rockets at that building. We're
tree lines.
Yep.
Yeah, no, you definitely there are times, I don't want to say you arbitrarily shoot. But same
with that college too. The raid that was in Time magazine.
Here's one of my favorite stories. Oh, it's the Afghan story.
Okay, so let's do Afghanistan.
So let me ask you this, Nathan, because you are a machine gunner by trade. Have you heard of suppressive fire?
Yes, I have heard of suppressive fire.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Cause we got a visit. I don't know. You can probably.
Wait, is that interesting? Because there's some.
Listen. I'm gonna get there.
The car story yet?
Listen, I'll finish that in a minute. Explain what a battalion gunner is. Okay.
He's basically the main guy. He's a warrant officer with an infantry unit that knows everything about every single weapon system.
But to be a SME, you have to have 15 years experience.
He goes to warrant officer school. He gets subject matter expertise.
And in order to be a warrant officer, you must be a staff NCO.
Yeah, he's got to be selected
within the enlisted ranks.
Warrant
officers are the ones that have the respect not only from the enlisted but also from the officers.
He's been in for a bit. So, but I have this thing. The higher up the totem pole you go, you forget where you come from. You forget some shit. So this wasn't a battalion gunner. This was like a higher up gunner.
It becomes more political.
Like, it does. So this guy comes down bitching about ammo expenditure reports. He's like, do you know what the ammo expenditure was in Vietnam? He was like, for every 10,000 rounds. I was like, yeah, how the fuck am I gonna, yeah, like, hold on. Let me break,
What's the price
let me break
comparison from
that,
then to
let me
now?
break that shit out. We were talking about that last week. So he's like, it was 10,000 rounds for every one guy killed, or whatever. He's like, you know what it is now? He's like, it's every 300. It's 300 rounds for every one guy killed. And Summers, I fucking love this kid. He looks over, he's like,
Is that the guy that
he's
takes his head shut?
no, that's Price. He's like, we're getting better. We're getting better, huh? And I'm like, fair enough. Fair enough. Fucking, and, but this guy's like, he's like, who here knows what suppressive fire? He's like, there's no such fucking thing as suppressive fire.
Wait, who said there's no such
This
thing?
gunner. This fucking gunner. And he's from like high up headquarters. He's like, there's no such thing. He's like, we spent all these money on these sites. He's like, you don't shoot till you fucking can tell me what color their towel is in your RCO or whatever. Looking through it. He's like,
Is he trying
we've
to
all, he's like, who's been shot at? He's like, we've all worked on the rifle range. It's the same as little pops over your head. Pop, pops. Long story short, the next day, pops. He's like, see, there's not the pop right through his fucking face. Caught one through his face. He's like, oh, I don't know, man. You want some suppressive fire now or whatever? Like, Taliban don't fuck around. He caught one through his face, putting a dip in on patrol. Trying to calm everyone down because they were taking pops and nobody was putting any suppressive fire down. It's the same shit. It's the same pop. When someone pops, your instinct is to get fucking down and seek cover. You do it back to them. They have that same fucking instinct. Like, no, he's fine.
But did he die?
No, he lived.
But did he die?
But did you die? So
Wait, so he lived.
He lived, and now I'm sure he's gonna tell fucking, see, you don't need to do it. Fucking, what my big takeaway was is that I like suppressive fire. It's like a jam.
Yeah, but
It's
here's
my jam.
here's the thing. When it comes to one of the things, in my opinion, that really separates Marine Corps infantry from a lot of other combat units out there is that we do our fire team rushes. And part of a fire team rush is as one team moves up, the other team is laying down suppressive fire.
Everything's
The
different in
reason for
Afghanistan.
this is because when you're in a combat situation, if you're the enemy and you hear that gunfire getting closer and closer and closer and closer, because the way that we orchestrate our movements, that's when
shoot, move, communicate.
That's when you overwhelm the enemy. You overwhelm them with fire superiority.
Someone's moving. That's all there is to it.
And if you're moving and someone's not shooting, you're dead.
Yeah, movement without fire is suicide. Fire without movement
is stupid.
It's a waste of bullets.
Yep.
Do you not always have air support?
Not always. No,
Not always.
It's expensive.
But and this is another big reason why, in a lot of, all right, so being part of Camis and K9s, we have a lot of different branches that come in through our organization, and we always talk shit back and forth. But one of the things that really separates the Marine Corps, and I'm biased towards the Marine Corps, obviously, I think it's the best fighting force this world has ever seen. Now, one of the things about them and why the enemy will often engage against the Army or any of the other branches, Air Force, Navy, and not the Marines as often is because when we are attacked, so depending on their standard operating procedures within a combat situation, the Army is often, their standard operating procedures is to drive through it. So if you're on convoy from point A to point B and you're ambushed, drive through it if you can, right? The Marine Corps, we'll
stop and fight.
Yeah, you're darn right. If you shoot us, it doesn't matter. We're the little kid on the block who's going to fight you.
We had like Afghanistan was its own beast, dude. Like
Really?
we moved around in Ranger files, which are just straight lines. Everyone staying behind everyone in their boot prints and shit. That's just some stuff you never trained on. That's just some staying in the lane.
Didn't they use dirty tactics over there?
It was
Watching
their
that movie,
IDs were fucking nuts.
They'd send kids out, so you'd have to plow through the kids.
No, like nothing
Well,
like
the
that,
IEDs are improvised explosive devices. I don't know if everybody knows what an IED is. And yeah, I wasn't in Afghanistan, but I was trying to talk about how if the enemy engages the Marine Corps, it's locate, close with, and destroy the enemy.
Well, then, the Taliban figured that out, and what they would do is they lined a whole bunch of fucking IEDs behind everything that I'm up, he sees me, I'm down, behind. So they were waiting. They'd shoot, pop, 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 and they'd wait for that Marines to turn and push towards them, and then the Marines would walk into fucking minefields. So we had to redo everything we know about.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that all changed. That all the whole way you fight. Yeah, the OIF 1, 2, 3.
Well, we always. have to
Oh,
wear
the
our
blast undies. Oh, that's my. Oh man, they came out with these blast underpants you were supposed to wear. These were fucking magic underpants, Nathan. I shit you not. They really weren't anything special. They were like your standard boxer briefs, but supposedly they would like close up around the bottom of the leg to keep the wound fresh and clean while someone was putting a tourniquet on or whatever. And so like they were like, you should have done it. And I won't say his name. I don't know how far your little shit's gonna get. I don't want fucking family and friends to hear that shit.
You're an awesome podcast.
But
Not your little shit.
this fucking kid got out of his truck. He was on an OP in observation position, hilltop. There's a bunch of trucks in a 360, and he was walking from his truck to another truck to get a battery or something, and he stepped on an IED that was meant for a truck, and it fucking blew him in half, like fucking just in half. Like he flew across the OP to the other side and landed. Like they tried to put like 6 or 7 tourniquets on the kid, and it wasn't happening. And then in the after actions, it all comes down. He wasn't wearing his blast undies, and like it was a fucking big deal. And they were trying to make a fucking command. Like they were like, why the fuck wasn't he wearing his blast undies? Like if that's true, our bad. If he had the magic underpants on, touche. And then we got
Kind of makes me think of those shoulder pads.
So we got super sarcastic with it. So because I was the combined anti-armor team, and we had the trucks, and we could move throughout the battle space, and everybody needed a fucking ride from us. We were like a taxi. Fucking be like, oh, the battalion commander needs to go over here. Can give him a lift or whatever. Be like, okay. And so what the section leader started doing is like, oh, we do underwear checks now. Like everyone's got to pull their pants down and show us that you're wearing blast underpants. No, he did it just to be a sarcastic asshole because we had to take the battalion because it was the battalion that was making such a big deal about it. So fucking, of course, none of them had them on. They're like, oh, those are for essential personnel. We're like, no, if you need a ride, you gotta put them on, sir. It's battalion policy. Like, they have made it very fucking clear that this is a priority. So, oh man, I give the section leader props for that. Kid by the name of Dare.
That makes me think of OIF 1 when we were at the pistol factory and it was 130 plus degrees out. It was basically as hot as Iraq has ever been. I don't know what the temperature was, but it felt like a sledgehammer beating your face in every time you stepped outside into that heat. And every time we went on patrol, or if we went on post, or if we did anything that involved outside activity, before we went to do that, we would have to present a bottle that we were peeing in.
Oh,
you remember that?
Fuck yeah. You had to, because there's like different colors of your urine.
Right?
Fucking Shitty Jack is my absolute favorite human being on this earth. Hands down.
Yeah, I know, of course.
He knows Shitty Jack.
Okay. He calls us up naked.
He's hilarious.
He's hilarious.
He calls me up naked on video chat.
On video chat.
And
We know he's naked.
Yeah, I'll leave it there. He's been enjoying himself throughout the evening for sure. He's let me know what has been going on up to that point. So, Shitty Jack. So before you go on guard mount at the pistol factory, you had to present the corporal or sergeant of the guard with a bottle of your urine to demonstrate that you were properly hydrated. And then everyone threw them away in a trash can around the corner afterwards or whatever. And fucking Shitty Jack was late to guard, fucking putting his shit on. He didn't have to pee. Fucking, I'm sure if he peed, it would be in yellow. He was like, he just wasn't having it. So he just grabbed a bottle of piss out of the trash can and brought it over to formation and was holding it. And the corporal of the guard was pretty sure he had seen Shitty Jack grab the bottle of urine out of the trash can.
Trash can jumping.
So, and he was, I don't even know what his nationality. I'm Facebook friends with him too. There's gonna be a lot of people that are not gonna be my Facebook friend after this. I can't remember what his nationality was, but I'll do my best to do his fucking accent, which I'm sure you shouldn't do. 2018.
It's fine. 2019.
2019.
So it's
that's
fine.
true. Did you take the piss out of the trash can?
All right, so
So he's like, "This is not your piss," and Jacqueline's like, "Yes, it is, Corporal." Such a smart ass. Yes, it is, Corporal. And simultaneously, there is a left seat, right seat going on. For those of you at home, a left seat, right seat is when a new unit comes on deck and they're learning how you do things, and you're showing them, and then you switch, and they take things, and you ease your transition away. So we're doing a left seat, right seat with the Polish. And there is a Polish general that's observing our change of the guard and how we do business. And
I totally forgot about the Polish army coming in there.
Yeah, he was there.
The Polish army was funny.
No shit. I mean, I'm not being racist. I'm not being racist. I'm not being this is straight up a true fact. The Polish arrived and we were at the guard gates, so we had to give the exact numbers and vehicles. And they're like, the Polish are here. They're like, 72 personnel, 96 vehicles.
You see why that's funny, right? 72 personnel, 96 vehicles.
Like, Polish are here, 72 people, 96 vehicles.
Are they
letting them in?
Are they trucking in some of the other
They
vehicles?
must be. I don't know how else. Get on in there. Get on in there. Get on in. Get on in. Get on in.
They were so much fun to work with, though. I love those guys.
So they're doing the left seat, right seat. They're watching old Jack and Abramy have their little interaction. And Abramy's like, "Oh yeah, Jack, this is your piece. Drink it." He's like, "Drink it? Aye, aye, Corporal." And he opens up and he just starts dumping it all over his body and like gargling, like pouring it all over his head. This Polish general is kurwa, and like walks away. Pretty sure that's fuck in Polish or something. And kurwa, I think I'm saying that right. And he walks away. And he was in disbelief. He did not want to see how the Marines conducted business doing the guard change of command anymore.
Wait, was Stewart there at the same time?
Stewart?
Because
sure
Stewart on.
Bitch.
Do you know who Stewart is?
Corva's bitch in Polish.
He was not impressed.
Do you know Stewart?
No.
Stewart did the same thing. I didn't even. I heard about it, and I asked him. I said,
Pee on himself?
he drank.
No, that's what happened next. No, I mean I'm all screwed up. After Jack did it, everyone thought it was so funny. Everyone did it. They all opened up their own pee, and everyone started pouring it on themselves.
No,
That's when he yelled Corva. That's when he walked away. Everybody did it because fuck a Bramy.
So Stewart was there.
Just beep that part.
I think he was there because I asked him about it.
Platoon. No, that's what happened.
I asked Stewart. I said, why did you do that?
I think because it was like everyone was so pissed off. We'd been extended like 5 or 6 times. We were like almost deployed a year at that point.
Nobody got a picture of this?
Well, yeah. Well, the thing was
Dude, no, because it was the first deployment. Like you're like invading a country. You're like,
Now you got
what you
kids
pack
on
is what you're
Instagram or
taking.
Facebook,
Yeah.
oh, look at this.
That was disposable camera day and age, and by then my shits had all been fucking wound up in clicks.
Yep. We had disposable camera footage or photos, not even footage. Yeah, all my photos were the wind up little click photo.
So did somebody do that on your watch too?
No. Oh, I heard about it, and I asked Stewart. Stewart's a good buddy of mine, and I said, "Why did you drink the
Stewart or his last name?
last name?" And I asked him. I said, "Why we? It's all last name, right?" So I asked him. I said, "Why did you drink your piss?" And he went, "You know, Stewart." He's like, "Cause fuck him."
Cause fuck him. Fuck him. That's why. Cause fuck him.
Not enough explanation.
No.
That's fucking
You know what? At fucking that point in time in that deployment, that was explanation enough, man.
There was some, that pistol factory had some of the craziest shit go down that I've ever seen in the Marine Corps. Let me tell you, do you remember what Dorenzo did?
No.
So Dorenzo, but what he did was he was on front post 1 or whatever it was called, and he saw some of the local Iraqis watching the compound, and he took off, left his post by himself, and ran after these people.
That's huge no-no.
And caught them and brought them back.
One
Came-
guy?
By himself, yeah. You talk about insane. He was the same one in the story. So we were doing, I don't remember when this was.
I don't know what it was, but he went off on me one night on Facebook. He said I was in his way. He was trying to kill somebody. I don't even remember it, and I was in his way.
You went
or
off on
something.
you on an
He said
Afghanistan moment?
No,
Iraq.
Iraq.
He said our machine gun position or something. I was either our machine gun position or because I was. Here's the deal: when I deployed with Dorenzo, I was either a boot in Llorente squad, so I was digging a hole or where Llorente told me to be, or I was with you and our machine gun team, so I was wherever our fucking machine gun team was supposed to be. So wherever the fuck we were in Dorenzo's way. He was trying to kill somebody.
Well, what was it called when we did those sweeps where we had all the vehicles on the road and we pushed all the troops out to the right and left and we walked to try to search for, weapon caches and things like that.
Contacts, something like that.
But we weren't. We were
Sweeps,
searching.
riding the rails.
They're like sweeps, right? But anyways, we were doing one of those, and this is a Dorenzo story. We pushed out, and we're literally just walking. And I remember I was super stoked because I was on the machine gun on the 7-ton. I'm sitting there watching everybody walk in the hot weather, and I'm, this is great. And they find a weapon cache off to the right. So I get out, I go over there, and I remember it's by a tree. And about 50 feet away, there's a line of bushes that block what's around the corner. And we're sitting there, and we found like 3 trash bags filled with AK-47s and magazines completely fully loaded. So these guys were ready to do business. If something hit the fan, they had weapons ready, locked, and loaded. And we're sitting there, and I don't remember which officer was there, but I remember Dorenzo and myself were there, and then one of the officers. And Dorenzo says, whoever the officer was, like, sir, there's a few people watching us over by those bushes. Don't make it obvious. And the officer glances over and he sees them and he looks back at me and Dorenzo and he says, I see them. When I tell you to, you're going to apprehend them. Now. So me and Dorenzo just take off. And we run down, and as I'm running, we were so far away. They saw us when we were running. It wasn't like, oh no, they're here. Like, these people had time to run around the corner, run around the other bush, shut down, get in position, aim in through their scopes, and take us out as we came around the corner. But we came around the corner, and then there was another corner that we went around, and they were just sitting there. So we took them in and brought them back. And I just remember how insane that was.
Were they playing a card game?
No, they weren't playing a card game.
They were just sitting there drinking beers?
No, they ran away from us and they stopped.
They ran
just-
away and then stopped
They ran
sat
and
down?
yeah, they
Where was
weren't
that?
sitting. They just ran and
Baghdad?
stopped. That was I don't remember where that was. Okay, so yeah, it was, and I don't remember where we were, but it was. I think it was. I don't remember the name of the officer, but who was the tall, skinny, blonde-haired dude?
He's in the FBI. I won't say his name.
He looked like a frat boy when we were.
Don't say his name. He's an FBI agent.
He actually had Dorenzo cracking up because he meant to say office one time, and he said, "I want you down in my orifice."
How do you get orifice out of office?
He was so
Like,
sleep
how does
deprived.
it
He was so
work?
sleep deprived. Like, Carr was the radio operator, and he's like, he was fucking talking to Carr in his sleep, like giving orders and shit. And Carr's like, "You want me to call who and say what?" He's like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Carr?" It's like, "You're just talking to me."
Dude, everyone was sleep deprived.
Oh, man, it's fucking crazy.
Cox. So we love the guy. Great guy. We're out in, I don't remember where we were at this point. We weren't at the pistol factory. This was before that.
Before the
And
pistol factory?
yeah, it was before the pistol factory, and we were doing
The cigarette factory? in
The
Baghdad?
cigarette factory. We were doing 8 on, 4 off. So 8 hours on post, 4 hours off.
Yeah, we were.
Everybody was sleep deprived. Nobody
4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
and
8
it's not
hours
4 hours
on,
sleep.
4
You're
hours
stopping.
off.
You're eating. You're right.
8 on, 4 off?
It was ridiculous. And this guy Cox is
That's
standing.
technically 8 hours of sleep a day within a 24-hour period.
That's true. It's broken up, right? That's how they worked it.
Dude.
So he's standing. It's nighttime, and he's standing by himself, just standing there. And we're looking over at him like, what is he doing? Yeah. And somebody walked over to him and said, "Hey, Cox, what do you got going on over here?" And he goes, "Fuck off. I'm waiting to take a piss." And he was there by himself. And I was on post with him once, and we were on this rooftop post at the date factory. So we're at this date factory, and we're on this rooftop post.
Fun fact, Imperial County and wherever the fuck Afghanistan, Iraq, only places that can grow dates. Continue.
Is where?
Imperial County, Coachella,
Here.
Riverside, here and there are the
Yeah.
only places that can grow dates.
No kidding.
Okay,
What's
keep
the
going.
soil,
Sorry.
the temp, because it gets that hot and the
Because
cold.
it's that
like the
fucking hot and
extremes.
desolate here and there.
Yeah.
So we were at this date factory, and myself and Cox were on this rooftop post, and all these local kids kept coming over, and they would try to sell us soda and stuff. And this was the one, I think I may have told you the story. I know I told you the story. This kid comes up, and I went, "Eshta," go away or whatever it means. And he looks at me and goes, "Eshta." And I said, "Hey, go away." And he goes, "Hey, go away." And he does like this little dance.
They figured that shit out quick.
So
This is not Saddam's
So at
army.
that point you call him wowie wowie.
Well, I after he was copying what I was saying, I looked at him and I said, "How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?" And he looks at me and his eyes get really wide and he says, "Woodchuck chuck chuck woodchuck chuck woodchuck chuck." And he starts dancing. So we were on this post for 12 hours. We were up there, so we were there day to night. And it gets nighttime, and Cox falls asleep, and I'm wide awake, so I was perfectly fine. And the way, this is how I'm pretty sure you were too. If you're on post with somebody and there's smoke, it's like you let
times that we worked the 50% shift.
yeah, you let the other
dude
dude sleep. You might get some
Really?
sleep. Somebody, one of the higher ups, you nudge them like,
You're like,
"Eh."
someone's coming.
Right?
Wake up. 2 men on this motherfucker. Ooh, ooh.
Yep. And I'm sitting there, and he wakes up, and he's right next to the edge of the building. And he's not even really awake. And he leans over, and he goes, "Hey, Eshta, Eshta." And he leans back. I'm like, "You all right over there?"
Doing his goddamn job in his sleep. That basically was enough to keep all those fucking kids back.
Let me tell you, I haven't met a Cox that's like, A-okay.
That's on par.
He's a good guy.
Those kids figured out quick. They're like, this is not Saddam Hussein's army. They will not shoot me for no reason at all. Like,
Yeah, they were
There's actually nothing they can do.
pretty much.
They have engagement rules of engagement.
Well, I mean, over the course of the next decade, it'd
So
be
did
a
the
lot
kid
of
do
back and
anything?
forth.
The woodchuck stuff. Did you give him some funnier shit?
The woodchuck kid, we bought some soda from him, and
Well, now he's
I think we
doing
even
it
bought
to
some-
everybody. He's like, if I make fun of him, I get free stuff.
I think we bought cigarettes from
We
them.
bought them. It was definitely a gamble. You'd throw them money and they'd bring you shit back.
We definitely bought a lot of cigarettes, and we bought soda from the locals.
Yeah, a lot of cigarettes, soda, bread.
Remember those Schoemer cigarettes?
Smoked them. I like the pines. Or what was it? It was Pine Lights. I was a Pine Light kind
Is
of
it
guy.
easier to get dip or cigarettes over
No,
there?
you can't get any dip over there.
You can get dip.
Nobody dips. Well, I mean, through the PX.
Oh yeah, once we got the
Like,
PX,
nobody-
but not the
nobody-
locals.
Nobody local fucking dips.
No, but dipping was a big thing too. Actually, that's how I quit smoking cigarettes.
Dipping.
Was dipping.
I mean,
Do you dip still?
No, I don't dip. But I mean,
Why
when
did
you,
stop?
it was easy to stop
But why did you stop?
because I didn't want to. Well, so the way that I looked at it was smoking is more socially accepted than dipping is, depending
That's
on
true.
where you are within the
That's
country.
true.
Only affect yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
However, cigarettes, you've got the smoke.
yeah. But for some reason, dipping.
People in the college classroom definitely give me a stank eye when I'm spitting dip into
Do you
a
look at 'em
thing. I let it drip all over my
He's
beard.
got the
They give you the stank eye. Is it still Kodiak?
It's the loud.
No, fuck no, I can't afford
Grizzly?
Kodiak. This is California. I have to shoot a Grizzly wintergreen.
Grizzly?
Wow, and I signed him up for the $1 off.
Yeah, I get the coupons.
Well, the worst was on ship, I drank a community spit bottle.
Gross. Davis did that one night when I was on duty.
Well, it was just your-
Oh, Davis is the other crazy one.
Davis is still missing in
No,
action.
but tell me more about
Still
how you
missing in
stopped
action to
and
this
why.
day.
I think Davis is in Chicago, right? No,
He's- so let me tell you. I did some detective work on Davis. I tracked
Can we
down.
get some quotes?
I-
Air quotes on that?
Tracked down. I did some
Because I
detective
feel
work.
like you picked the worst.
Some investigative. I did some shit on the internet.
We looked
I paid
ourselves
for
up
some
and
pay
there were
up,
some things
some
missing
pay,
on
some
our
pay,
records.
some pay websites or whatever that I could get, and I have Davis in 2008 being arrested and going to Cook County Jail. in
Cook County, Chicago.
County.
That's Schaumburg.
Yeah, no, he's going. He's
Schaumburg's Cook County,
and
though. That's
then,
where I grew up.
Cook County, I know Davis's birth date. I know his name, full name with middle initial, and that's enough to get a lot of stuff actually. And
Yeah, but we looked ourselves up on that and it was inaccurate.
shh. So I went to the Cook
Silly
County.
facts. Silly facts.
So I went to the Cook County website, which is not the thing. I went to the Cook County website to look up if Davis was still incarcerated as an inmate with all that stuff, and determined that Davis was not in Cook County. So he had been arrested in 2008. He had done time. And
How much
he's
time?
not currently in Cook County. And that was like 2016.
How much time?
I don't know. And it was for some shit. It was
You can
for
look that stuff
it
up.
was
That's
for
all
resisting. It was for like
public
resisting
record.
arrest. It was
I know
for
that because-
evading. It was for evading police. It was for a high speed pursuit. It was for some. There's a story. There's a story there for sure.
He's in Idaho.
Speaking of doing time, do you remember the story with
Please,
who was it? I can't remember his name. Schwarz, not
Schwarting.
the one who shot Martinez in the neck.
Fuck, what was his name?
It's not Schwarzy. It's Schwartz. Schwartz.
Schwartz. That might have been it.
It might have been.
Schwartz be with you.
Well, yeah. So we had one guy in our unit. They were messing around on post. They were at post 10. I remember post 10 was the one far off in the corner, and Martinez kept joking around saying, "Oh, somebody's coming to relieve us. Somebody's coming to relieve us." And they were supposed to have the weapons in condition 3, which is magazine inserted. Which is magazine inserted, no round in chamber, bolt forward, safety on, ejection port cover closed. Right? But he had it in condition 1, which is magazine inserted, bolt forward, safety on, round in chamber, ejection port cover closed. So he clicked it off safe, joking around. He unseated the magazine, and when Martinez turned around, he was just going to be like, ha ha ha, click, joking, but he went bang.
That's right.
Shot Martinez through the neck. No, it didn't kill him. When he was shot through the neck, he fell back, and Schwartz freaked out, jumped off the tower because he tried calling it in on the radio and nobody was answering. So he took off to try to get help, and Martinez called in his own evac. And so they basically came, and it was on his mom's birthday, too. That is more crazy stories from the pistol factory and the date factory. Didn't we have a vehicle burned down in the pistol factory or something like that?
Pistol factory. Smoking on post.
Were
Facebook
you
friends
guys
with
in-
those kids.
When we were in Babylon, though, I was on the east side, I think, of the Tigris River. I was at one little separate unit that was off to the
Oh,
side.
really? The one where Ski drowned from?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was on the other
I
one.
gave him his last cigarette.
No shit.
Because he came over and I was up on the rooftop post, and he came up to my position. He was talking to me, and we had a good connection from the beginning because back when we were at the
He
Barracks,
was cool to boots.
He was super cool. He was a
cool
nice
to
guy.
boots. He talked to me in Kuwait, and that's what stands out to me
Mm-hmm.
before you tell us his story is talking to him. All I had was boot camp stories because I was a fucking boot, and the only thing I know for 100% is that he did not like swimming. He was not a strong swimmer.
He said that?
He told me he was an iron duck, straight up. He straight up told me he was an iron duck. I kid you not. That fucking burned into my brain. He knew he was not a good swimmer.
He was a hard charger, though. That guy was good guy. He didn't
charger.
make it.
He's still alive, right?
No, he died. Oh, I have
That's
one.
not the guy from 29 Palms?
He died.
No.
This one died in 2003. But when I met him in 2002, this is also a Brent story, and I'm using his first name because he's a police officer now, and he told me not to use his last name. He's like, I'm an officer now. So all right, cool. But anyways,
he's in the reserves too.
So I remember Ski asked if I could go pick him up a pack of cigarettes or something like that, and I said I couldn't do it. And I said, but I have cigarettes, and he says, well, let me get one. And I said, I'll give you one condition. He's like, one condition. I said, do some push-ups. And I'm private first class Schoemer at this time. And when I said do some push-ups, his eyes got wide. He's like, what? And charged me and like put me in a headlock or something. And all the other higher up Marines run in. And Brent comes running out of the back like John Rambo. Jumps in on the pile.
Grabs Ski.
Oh, I mean, that dude. I had some good times with some of the fights with.
So did you give him a cigarette?
Fighters.
Yeah, it was cool. Afterwards, I gave him a cigarette, and
that's all they do. They're like a pack of animals. They just fucking dog pile,
Are you guys
barking,
getting
running.
hungry? Anybody getting hungry?
I'm okay for now. But it was such a cool moment because after that, I gave him a cigarette, and then I got mine, and he lit his cigarette, and then I'm getting ready to light mine, and he goes, no, I'm lighting your cigarette. And he says, somebody with balls enough to say what you said to me, I'll light your cigarette for you. But he came by, and so this was right before he actually drowned in Iraq. And it was at the other side of the river, and he comes up, and I'm on the rooftop post, and I remember looking down, talking to him. And he says, hey, can I get a cigarette? I said, yeah, no problem. So I throw him down a cigarette. And he takes it, and he goes, you want to know a little trick to pick up the ladies? Let me show you. He puts a cigarette in his mouth, and he takes out the matchbook, and he goes with one hand and lights it and starts smoking it. And I'm sitting there, and I said, so what else? And he's like, that's it. What the fuck else you want?
Something cooler than that. Nothing cool, guys.
Something cooler than that. Yeah, well, there's an iconic photo of him. I'll put it.
The suspenders.
I'll put it on the YouTube video.
The mop suits. It's mop suits. You held the bottom half up with these goddamn suspenders.
It was literally an iconic photo of the United States military forces in Iraq and how we are seen as invincible. And he's like standing there, and he has the suspenders, with shirt, looking all cut, smoking a cigarette. I mean, it's a badass photo.
Yeah.
Huh?
So fucking that's the crazy part. You want to tell them?
feet
It's the crazy part was a helicopter crashed into the Euphrates River, and he saw it, and he fucking took off his shit and just fucking ran and jumped in.
Yeah, he jumped in to try to save the pilots.
Knowing he couldn't swim.
Here's the thing.
That's what fucking stuck out to me when they're like he drowned. I'm like, why? He fucking jumped in.
Did he save anybody?
No. I think everybody died.
Plus him.
Yeah, I think everybody because the helicopters. The thing is about the helicopters. That's why you do the helo dunker in training. Is all the heavy shit's up top. So as soon as it hits the water, it flips upside down and goes under. Like
I mean, I was a McQuist in the Marine Corps, which is Marine Combat
That's the
Instructor in Water
craziest
Survival.
shit. That's the R word again. That's the R word strength. You have to be R word strong to be able to be a McQuist.
To be a McQuist.
You are R word strong.
Well, no, I mean, what I was gonna say, so in the McQuist course, when you go through it, they separate you into two groups. You're either the fish or the guppies. The fish are the fast, stronger swimmers, and the guppies are the slower. Mm-hmm. And when I was going through the course, I was the best in the guppies. So, not the best. No,
That's
I
like
take it
saying,
back.
I can show you my statement. I was the honor grad from rehab. I was the most improved patient from rehabilitation.
I mixed it up. I wasn't the best in the guppies. I was the worst in the fish. That's what it was. I was the worst in the fish.
Oh, touche. That's a different story.
And it was brutal. It sucked because all the different training things, they always said it pays to be a winner. Well, if you're the slowest one, you're never the winner. So it's torture.
I know that pain.
But people think that you look at something when it comes from a swimming perspective and you say, oh, I could do that in this situation. I could do that in this situation. But the moment you get to that point where you're running out of breath and you start to panic and they put you through that multiple times in the McQuist course.
Right?
Oh, it was
Did
torture.
You drowned out there? Did you ever
You feel like it.
Some people probably did, huh? What?
No, well, right before I went through the course, a staff sergeant actually drowned.
Like died?
Died.
No, that's what I'm saying. But some people choke down some water.
Oh yeah, everyone does.
It's like
it's the. I mean, so out of everything I did in the Marine Corps, being in combat, being a machine gunner.
I never talk to you when you're going through because there's a couple things along the way where I'm like, fuck that. Like you see that in the military and you're like, fuck no. And then the other time I met, well, we won't say his name, but he's a Navy SEAL now, and I saw him after he got out of BUD/S. And no homo, his muscles had muscles. He was like, shh. I'm like, BUD/S is some shit, huh? He's like, yeah.
No joke.
He's like, BUD/S is hard. I'm like,
BUD/S is hard.
I'm like, I don't doubt it. Yeah, no, not for me. Not for me.
And that's the thing with the McQuist course. Out of everything that I did in the Marine Corps, if there was one that I would rather skip again, or here, let me put it in a different perspective. Everybody thinks going through drill instructor school is challenging because you're going to be a drill instructor, top 10% of the Marine Corps. It's one of the hardest things that you could do in the Marine Corps, which it is. But I would rather go through drill instructor school twice
than do McQuist
McQuist once.
The shit you told under the pool with the vests and all that shit. I tell my kids stories about fucking your McQuist adventures when we're at the condo pool in San Diego. I'm like,
well,
what?
And here's the crazy thing.
I got a buddy. I was like, I got a buddy that can swim this pool underwater with a helmet on back and forth. Well, they're so not impressed. Kids these days.
They don't care.
No.
But, the drill instructor school is 3 months, and McQuist course is 3 weeks. So I'd rather do 6 months of drill instructor school than 3 weeks. It was the only course in the Marine Corps that I dreaded the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we did what was called water aerobics. Now, it sounds like something that a bunch of old people would be doing in the pool, rotating their arms. It was absolute torture. But the point that I'm trying to make with all that training, right? I've had people say, well, if I flipped a vehicle into the water, I'd be able to get out because a lot of people overseas died because their vehicle...
Whoa!
Cat's got grumpy.
Hey! I'm going to grab a beer.
So a lot of guys overseas actually ended up drowning by flipping a vehicle over into one of the rivers, into the canals, things like that. And some of the guys would say, well, if I was in that vehicle, I'd be able to get out. How are you not able to get out, right? Well, after the McQuist training, and I flipped a Hummer. You know I flipped a Hummer, right?
In Iraq?
Yeah.
I think so.
You remember we were doing that raid. We were going to raid this house. And we went there, and Kat had done recon beforehand. No, it wasn't Abu Ghraib. It was before that. Where were we at? No, it was Abu Ghraib.
It was Nasser wa Salam.
You're right. It was Abu Ghraib.
Abu Ghraib.
That's right.
Because that's the only time we got Humvees. Because we were a line company.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, you're going to take over for this 3-1 unit because they were going to go join the rest of the Fallujah push. And they're like, you're going to guard the outskirts. And they're like, so here's the other deal. They're like, you're going to do it in Humvees and you're machine gunners. So you guys have Humvee licenses? Or like, you got library cards? Like, shit
good
works.
Enough. Well, when I flipped the Humvee out in Iraq, it took us 15 minutes to get out of that vehicle after we had flipped. And that was on dry land. So imagine that being underwater. And when we flipped the vehicle, it went from being an open space like it would be when you're inside of a vehicle to all of a sudden everything crushing in on you as we flipped. And I remember once we flipped, I heard somebody saying, help me. And in my head, because I flipped it, in my head I was thinking it was Kirk.
Oh,
you remember? Yeah.
I'm not talking to that kid. Fuck that kid.
Well, we'll take that out. I thought it was Kirk.
You can leave it in. Fuck that kid.
Why?
I'll tell you later, but fuck that kid.
Okay. But anyways, so I thought it was Kirk, but he was smart enough because he was up top on the machine gun that when we went to roll, he ducked inside. We had an Army National Guard guy with us who was claustrophobic, and the Mark 19 ammo cans rolled on top of him.
That's one thing. Well, here's the other reason why the doors don't open is because it takes a forklift to put them on. It takes like a piece of their up armored doors. It
Yeah.
takes a fucking hooyah.
Those doors are legit.
Yeah, they're heavy. So you flip over and you get in water. It's not opening. And the top of the Humvee where the hole is now upside down. Fucking, you're trapped.
Just like, what else were you going to say about Davis, though? I think there was something else we were going with that.
Oh, last scene in action, man. He's out there.
That's it?
He's out there. There's a lot of shit. I love Davis. He's fucking. If I could pinpoint. We're all always, when you look at these stats and they're like 22 guys a day kill themselves or whatever the number is now. You're like, how does that happen? You're like, you have to take someone has to take fucking personal responsibility at some point in time, because we us close ones, we talk to each other fairly regularly, but like, I don't know, if someone in our circles that we talk to on the reg, that we see, that we comment on their shit on Facebook or we message and this, that, and the other, if one of them off themselves, you probably take it personal. I don't know. You probably see it. I don't know. It's a touchy subject. But Davis, if something happened to Davis, I would take it. I'd say fuck you, because I can pinpoint. It's on me. I can pinpoint. There's a couple times before I totally lost contact with him, where I was just so wrapped up in still being in the military and still getting ready to deploy and still going through my own shit, trying to get my own shit squared away and drinking all the time and doing my shit. And he'd be like, he was trying to get me to Western Union and money. I knew it was for heroin. He's like back on heroin or whatever. And like, I mean, he was in Chicago. What am I going to do? I mean, there's probably something. If we're being honest, maybe I could have called. Maybe there's a bunch more programs now than there would have been. This would have been fucking 2008, maybe. Something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, what about Maher?
Max. So I took a class while I was still in the military in creative writing. And one of the short stories I wrote about was about him. Shit you not again. When we left for dinner, I remember this fucking kid sitting by himself over fucking by tables. And it wasn't uncommon. People smoke cigarettes, chilling by themselves. I felt like there was something about it. I don't know. I fucking asked him if he wanted to come to dinner with us. It's like, we're all walking up. It's like, you want to go to dinner? Nah, he's good. Fucking, I don't know. But I'd sit by myself and smoke cigarettes too sometimes, all by my lonesome.
Right, well, because I've told people about that, because it's
on, smoke cigarettes.
Suicide is something that a lot of people deal with.
Yeah.
Somebody commits suicide, and somebody they know, and I've known a few people who have committed suicide, and you hear about people that are struggling and they're feeling something, they're going through a hard time, and that's something that we deal with a lot down at Camis and Canines, where people are depressed, they're at their rock bottom.
Oh, for sure.
I almost feel as if a lot of times the ones that are going to do it, they don't really give you any signs. And if there is a sign, it's a cry for help, So with Maher, I didn't see signs with Maher.
No, because because he's a class clown too. And they're like,
and he was liked by everybody.
But if Dave, right now, if Davis turned up dead, we all fucking knew and loved Davis. Like, that's shame on all of us for losing touch with him. Honestly, nobody knows where the fuck he is.
Door swings both ways, though.
Nobody knows where the fuck he is. He was last seen getting out of jail in Chicago, and he's a heroin addict. It was such a sad story. Like, his mom, who was holding the whole family together, got cancer and died. And then, I sent the last known address I had for him. I called someone named David Davis. Turned out it wasn't the same guy. And fucking, he was like, but I told him the story, and he drove by the house, the address I had for him, said the shit was all boarded up. Said it was all boarded up. Like,
when was the last time you heard from him?
08.
08?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you said it was like 2016.
No, I've seen he went to jail.
Oh, okay.
I saw there was an arrest for him. I might be getting my ears fucked up. I might have last time talked to him 06. Seen he was arrested.
How often?
He got time in jail. He's not in Cook County. I feel like He probably got released in 2010.
Well, how often was he reaching out to you though before that?
Who even knows? Because we were in our fucking 20s, dude. Like, you're like, how often do you text so-and-so in your 20s? Like, I don't know. I wish I knew more. I don't know. I kick myself for Davis. I wish I knew we were best friends. Me, him, and Jack, and fucking three of us lived together in that goddamn barracks, and no idea what the fuck.
Well, you guys definitely had some crazy stories. I remember one time I showed up to the barracks, and he was on the 3rd floor, and you had to watch out because he thought it was a good idea to throw Heineken bottles at people showing up on the...
Oh, fuck. No, this is the best. Oh, I don't think I'm Facebook friends with Morris anymore. I don't know what happened to that kid, the Moose kid. But,
I remember the Moose.
But Davis had been drunk as shit. He would put the Who on. He would put the fucking Who and go, oh, what is it? Oh, I can't remember that song. It was a very violent song. He could put the Who on, and he'd be drinking liquor, and he started smashing empties because we had a bunch of empty Heineken bottles. He started smashing empties around our room, and he's like singing the Who, and he's smashing empties, and then he starts launching them off the 3rd floor onto the catwalk down below. Smash, 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 smash. Then, you're not allowed to smoke in the barracks, but Davis always lit the smoking lamp. Lights up a cigarette. He's smoking in the middle of our fucking room. Just broken Heineken bottles everywhere. And fucking Corporal fucking comes up, Corporal Morris, and he's all, do you guys know who's been throwing fucking green bottles fucking out there on the fucking courtyard? And he like looks him dead in the face. No, Corporal. It's like, fucking, but what are you gonna do? Davis would, like, that was what Gibby said. I fucking, Gibby's not on Facebook anymore. He was on Facebook for a minute, disappeared, not on Facebook. Gibby straight up told that one dude, he's like, you know how fucking it should work? Whoever can beat whoever's ass is in charge. He's like, this new staff sergeant showed up. He's like, staff sergeant? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, Gibby, he's like, why don't you fucking shave, Gibby? He's like, I don't shave on Fridays. He's like, are you fucking kidding me, Corporal Gibson? He's like, nope. He's like, staff sergeant. He's like, whoever can beat whoever's ass should be in charge. He's like, I'd be like the battalion commander. He's like, I'm guessing you'd be like a lance corporal.
I feel like that was Andrews who said that.
No, it was fucking Gibby. It was, I'm pretty sure it was Gibby.
I'm pretty sure it was Andrews.
But,
I remember Andrews saying that because Andrews ran around and beat up everybody. I remember that's when you were teaching me how to play the guitar. And I learned how...
He's another savage.
I learned
amateur UFC fighter after he got out.
Who?
Andrews.
Oh, could he?
No, he was. Wasn't he an amateur UFC fighter?
Oh, I don't know. I can message him.
He runs around. Message him and ask him because now I know he trains people in Africa. He's like a private mercenary
No shit.
No, he's got a...
I know different people in the military who are now doing big things in martial arts.
Actually, Andrews, we can give Andrews a plug. His business is called... Black Horse Training.
I think I may have heard of that.
It was. I got on Facebook friends with him. Hold on, Andrews. I won't fuck you.
Well, but
give him a plug. Fuck it.
Yeah, when you were teaching me how to play the guitar, so he taught me how to play the guitar, and I was sitting outside. I was playing the guitar, and Andrews came out, and we called him Jaws because his teeth were all fucked up. I don't know if they still are, but
I'm sure they are.
So I'm sitting down, and he would just beat up everybody. And I'm sitting down, and I see him walk out. He looks at me, and I go, brum, brum. And he starts walking over, so I say, bum, bum. And he gets closer, bum, 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 bum. I did get my ass kicked for that, though. Rightfully so.
I want to give him a plug, man. Andrews deserves it. It's like Dark Side Training or Black Horse Training.
Well, what about that shirt you have on?
What shirt? The Mattis one?
Yeah, you only have one shirt on.
I'm a fan of this shirt. I'm fucking your podcast up right now.
Well, didn't General Mattis extend us 3 or 4 times during our first deployment?
Mattis came out, yeah, he sent us a bunch. I got a Mattis story for you. Ready for this?
Yeah.
True Mattis story.
Let's hear it.
So, during my first 4 years in the Marine Corps, I stood tall before the man
5 times.
4 times.
4 times.
4 times. I got a 5th one, but that was later on as a sergeant. I was NJP'd, non-judicial punishment, the equivalent to being arrested in the civilian world 4 times.
I got it once.
In my first 4 years. Good for you. Fucking boot. I got NJP'd 4 times. So, the thing is, so I did OAF 1 and 2. I had gone downrange 4 times within my first 4, 6, what is it, 6? So anyway, I may have to think about that. I did OAF 1. Oh no, here's how it worked. Did OAF 1 and 2 with you. Didn't want to extend my contract with 1-4 because we got that new command and they were awful. They were awful.
I'd already left.
You had already left? You shitbag. You missed.
I left right after our second deployment.
You missed really. I don't even know what the word is I'm looking for right now. Do you miss a terminus time? It was very unstable. It was a lot going on. Get this. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. I don't know. Get this. So, who was our outgoing first sergeant at that time?
For somewhere else.
Motherfucking Mighty Mo, like the god, like up there, chesty puller, some shit like that.
Yeah, he's a hard charger.
Fucking
badass.
89.99 is the MOS first sergeant, and this fucking Pogue air wing, no, not even an air wing, like an admin dude, like straight up came in the military as an admin dude. That was his original MOS. Is a first sergeant. Shows up to be the Bravo Company first sergeant right after Mo. Like the most polar opposite. He's like, and I want a fucking alpha inspection. And everyone's got their ribbons on upside down. We're all wrapping cellophane around our fat bellies.
Oh, isn't this when Bonilla said, "We don't fight wars in alphas"?
Yeah, it was mutiny. It was mutiny. I bet that's why we got sent to 3-1. He was making an example because he's like trying to get people to extend their contracts to go on that MEU. Because they weren't going to Iraq, they were going on a MEU to fucking Japan or some shit.
Singapore, Thailand.
They were going somewhere. Yeah, they weren't doing a combat tour, but they wanted everyone to go with them. And everyone's like, fuck you, I'm not extending my contract to go on deployment with you. And they're like, if you don't, we're going to send you to Iraq with 3-1. And we were like, ooh. And we fucking went out and bought 3-1 t-shirts and wore them to PT. We're like, bitch, you won't do it. And fucking they put us in a box formation and marched us down to 3-1. Said, your ass is going to 3-1. So we went to 3-1. So when I got home from that deployment, it turns out 3-1 was a good unit. And then my time was up and I re-enlisted with them. So back to the story at hand. In order to re-enlist, I had been NJP'd a bunch of times home. When we had gotten home from deployments, the words that were most frequently used to describe me were drunk and disorderly. And then once unauthorized absence, aka AWOL. I took a couple. It was like a week. Took a week of me time.
I took 3 days of me time. That's all I had.
I took a week of me time, which the military really frowns upon. When you like just take a week, just just living your life, you know what I mean? Just try to do your thing. And they're like, we sincerely need you here every day for accountability purposes. But they frown on it. So that was one of my charges. But so anyway, most of them were drunk and disorderly. But you're supposed to be, if you get NJP 3 times in your first 4, you're supposed to be processed for discharge. They're supposed to kick you out.
I remember you telling me about this.
Other than honorable discharge. And I had 4, but they fucking didn't because I was like, I'll go back to Iraq. So get something bad. And so my shit had to get signed off on by like crazy high level people, like all like high up the chain of command. Just like my shit was like a matter of waiver. So I get it. I get to go on my 4th tour, and my 4th tour, my old company commander is now like on the staff of General Mattis, and they're like touring the battle space and this, that, and the other. And I was out on patrol. I was out on patrol doing my thing. It was a bunch of days, and Mattis did a pop in, come see everybody on the base, and this guy knew I was with 3-1, and he's like, "Hey, sir, I want you to meet this guy Friedman or whatever." And he's like, "Hey, where's Friedman at? Like, I want to."
General Mattis was saying this?
No, his aide.
Oh,
it was his
okay.
aide, he was a captain or a major, and he was like, "General Mattis, I want you to meet this guy." And he's like, "Hey, where's Friedman at? Where's Friedman at?" And I was out on patrol, and people were losing their shit. Because, like, they're like, "Oh, this is what the general wants. We got to produce whatever he wants." People were losing their shit or whatever. And then I finally get back to base, like, after patrol, they're like, "What the fuck did you do, Friedman?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "Why the fuck is General Mattis looking for you?" I was like, "I don't fucking know. I don't even know the guy. Like, I just got back from patrol. Literally nothing happened." What's going on? It was pretty funny. They said to be there.
Well, I remember on our first deployment, General Mattis was the one who extended us about 3
He
times.
extended us a bunch of times. He
Yeah.
was, every time you were gonna do more time.
Because we were supposed to, after the fighting was declared over by Bush, we were supposed to come back, President Bush. We were supposed to come back immediately after that in May. And we didn't get back
Thanks
till...
for clarifying who Bush was.
You're welcome. We were supposed to come back.
That's President Bush.
I know. I want to say it nicely. I want to say it nicely.
I thought it was funny.
Whisper it directly into the microphone.
Yeah. I don't know.
But I remember the last time that we were
I
supposed
love
to.
George Bush.
The last time we were supposed to see General Mattis, didn't they take our weapons? They told us not to take our weapons.
Oh, to leave him behind or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, it was the 4th time they were extending us. I don't know if it was related. They're just like, "We don't need them. You bitches have been here long enough."
Every single time that we were extended, they would stand in front of us and they would say, "This is an opportunity to show your true colors."
Yeah. No, but I'll
remember
tell
that.
you what. He didn't even mind after he got done talking to you. He didn't mind. But my also favorite.
He's a badass.
He
Though.
is
General
a badass.
Mattis
Listen
is
to
a
him here,
badass.
listen to him talk. My other favorite fucking speech has to be, what the hell was our first company commander's name? The big, tall. He looks like the guy that was on
Our company commander.
Yeah,
or
from
battalion?
Super Troopers. No, company commander. He looks like the guy Captain Gomez from Super Troopers. The guy with the mustache, Thorny or whatever. The real big, tall. Like, he's real tall.
I remember our second one.
You don't remember our first company commander,
No.
Captain Gomez? He had a big mustache.
I don't remember.
Oh,
No.
man, he was great. Well, his motto speech after we got extended from the 4th time, and he was already sitting down, and he's like, "Bring it in, fellas, bring it in," and we were all like, "Bring it in," and it looked like someone had shot his dog. Like, he was so sad, and he's like, "Well, guys," he's like, "we've been kicked in the nuts so many times. He's like, it doesn't even really hurt anymore, huh?" And I'm like, that's a moto speech right there. That's my shit. I dig it, brother. I dig it. Like, there's some times along the way, but there's just no sugarcoating how shitty everything is, dude. There's just like, fuck.
Well, there was times when we were on post where we would actually sit down and we would start to wonder whether or not we had died in combat.
That was the rumor. We had
Yeah.
died in combat, and that this was like some lost type scenario.
Yeah, it
where,
was.
we're living in
What's
fucking hell.
what's it called? Not heaven or hell, but purgatory.
Purgatory.
Yeah, so
Every day was
we're in
combat,
purgatory. Yeah,
and this is a never-ending deployment.
you're
and
sitting on.
fucking-
Oh, I got a good story. What about the time that we got a bottle of vodka from the Polish army?
Back to the Polish army.
The
We
Polish.
have some pictures of
They
the
brought
Cedo.
booze.
One of my favorite stories with the Polish army was we were sitting there, and I was on post with one of the Polish soldiers, and basically what had happened was he fell asleep. So he falls asleep on post, and one of his higher-ups come around the corner. And I'm sitting there, and I see the higher-up come around the corner, and I want to wake the guy up because I feel bad that he's going to end up getting in trouble because he fell asleep on post. I mean, we would get our asses lit up if we fell asleep on post. And he comes around, and he's sneaking, and he looks at me, and he goes, shh. And he walks a little closer, and again, I'm feeling bad for the guy who's about to get in trouble. I should have woke him up. This is a total blue falcon, is what they call in the military, which is a buddy fucker, blue falcon. So he goes around the corner, and as he gets closer to him, he goes, bah! And the guy gets scared. He goes, I got you. And they hit each other, and the guy walks off. My mind was blown. I couldn't believe that a higher up in another armed forces catches a subordinate sleeping, scares him, they laugh it out, and he walks away. That would have been not an NJP, but you would definitely be in trouble if you fall asleep on post and you're in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, that would not have happened with our fucking... That was... You would get charged. Brought up on fucking charges.
Right? Exactly. Well, that's...
Get the fuck out of here.
And I remember when they told us that
they had a much more laid-back attitude towards the military.
They did. Well, remember how they told us we couldn't dip on post? Mm-hmm. They said we couldn't dip.
Or smoke.
Smoke, I understand.
Yeah.
I get that, right?
Burn now.
Yeah. Well, I get it too because of cherry. If it's at nighttime and somebody's,
sure.
But dipping, I'm looking at them and saying, well, dipping keeps me awake.
Yeah.
You lean back, you fall asleep, and that tobacco slides into the back of your throat. You're gonna wake up.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm tired and I'm gonna fall asleep, and my option is fall asleep or put in a dip, I'm putting in a dip.
Yeah. Oh,
sorry.
No, dipping. It was because people were spitting everywhere. It's because the posts were turning into these fucking gross nests.
Oh, that's
of
right.
Spit and urine. And it was like an ejaculate. And it was just like, it's like this is potentially the grossest place on earth.
Well, you and Davis had some pretty good videos that you made.
It's weird that you went there. What are you talking about? I don't think I ever made an ejaculate video.
No. But there's a video that you're filming of Davis, and he's on post, and he's standing there, and he has a.
Oh my God! What happened to all those? The fucking virus, dude. Davis was fucking. He was such a madman. He completely fucking took his bottoms off, like his everything, right? And he had his boots on, but like his dick's out, just like his bottoms off. But then he has flak, his top on, his helmet, and shit like that. And we had it set up so I'd have him talking, and then I'd fucking slowly zoom out. And he's like talking, he's like, we're here on a post, and we're doing this, that, and the other. And I slowly zoom out, and he's just standing there without any fucking pants on, with his dick hanging out. Like, it was fucking classic humor, man.
What was funny what he said, all the videos
see how
that they had.
See how, like, that's it, dude. That's why I love, we get together, we drink, we tell these stories, they're like, you're like, that was fucking hilarious.
Well,
dude.
What was great about it though was it was almost an instructional video. When it starts out, Davis is standing there. He says, "We're out here in the middle of Iraq in a combat situation. Yeah. It's a very hostile environment. We have to maintain constant vigilance. We have to observe the locals to ensure that they're not moving in and going to become hostile within our situation. And to maintain professionalism is the most important thing that we do out here."
That's true.
And he aims back in, and then it zooms out, and he's naked. So, or at least from the waist down.
Thank God you told it. See how they're laughing much harder now?
Whatever.
See, that's what I'm saying. Fuck you.
Or the video where you're talking about communicating with the locals, and you zoom in and you see a couple of the locals working, and you're zoomed in on them, and you say, "All right, I'm going to communicate with them."
These motherfuckers, this is who invades us.
Davis?
They're like, this
no,
fucking
Ackerman.
Davis. I mean, it was some Monty Python humor, I suppose. It was fucking that dry British humor shit. But it was fucking.
All right, we probably got like 10 more minutes. What was the...
Should I wrap up the pulling over story?
Well, yes.
Should I wrap that shit up? So, so I beat the DMV. Last week here, Granado's on administrative leave. Sums it up. They just got to me with a court date before it expired on the statute, and I get my first court appearance. And I documented that on Facebook. I got many pictures of me suiting up because I got a couple of fancy suits.
You did look pretty slick. I saw those photos.
I put on the suits and I went to go stand before the man. So number one, if you're ever arrested, the first thing they're gonna do is they don't give a shit. That's the other thing. Everybody goes, they're like, it's been so long. I finally get my day to court. I got so many stories. They don't want to hear shit besides guilty or not guilty. And then do you get a public defender or not? Do you have an attorney? You get a public defender. That's fucking it. Don't give a shit. I knew that already going in with my almost bachelor's of criminal justice. So I was like, I guess it was pointless to suit the fuck up, but I at least got to meet my public defender because I'd been calling the public defender. I've been calling the district attorney.
Hey, what was your public defender's name?
The first one, Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean. And he's a little race doesn't play a part, but if we're just being fucking hilarious about it, David and Goliath, Mr. Bean is a little 5-foot white kid with glasses, Darren Bean, and he's fucking adorable, and he's like 90 pounds soaking wet, and then the district attorney was like 6'5", black, fucking 204. He was like Stewart but taller.
Jesus.
And you're just it's the justice system, but if we're going out in the street, like, just these two, like, my guy's getting his ass kicked. Like, he's a little guy. Like, I don't know if that means that. I know it's not supposed to.
Was he smart, though?
It's a metaphor. Turns out, because of the way shit works, he wasn't even the guy I would end up with going to battle. He was my guy on arraignment day, who I did my paperwork. I qualified for public defender. I pled not guilty. Day 1. Day 2, pretrial conference. Turns out I switched attorneys, get a new attorney, but it had been a year. I'd been researching all this stuff. I'd had so much information on all these different things. I'd given it over to these guys. The cool news is they were fucking good attorneys. They were hungry. They were in it for the right reasons. They were very thankful for the year of work I'd put in. And, like, that was, like, legit stuff. And they were like, this is great starting points. And the first negotiation went like this. They're like, they're going to offer you a deal, dude. They're like, you plead not guilty, or you plead guilty and they'll give you traffic school. Just traffic school. And he's like, by law, I have to tell you all the deals. By law, I'm your public defender. I have to tell you the deal on the table. They'll be willing to take a guilty plea and give you just traffic school instead of paying these fines and going to jail. It's like, fuck you, take me to trial. I was like, that's this shit. That's my shit. And then pre-trial conference day 2. I mean, like, and weeks are elapsing in between these things. It's jockeying. Then they're like...
It's kind of scary.
Then they're like, turns out you're a veteran. Well, there's a thing under the law where you can tie it to your disability and be like, oh, it was PTSD related. And they'll be like, all you have to do is go check in with the VA. You plead guilty, but it doesn't go on your record. Don't ever believe that shit. What does that mean? You plead guilty, but it doesn't go on your record.
It's going to go on your record.
You plead guilty, it doesn't go on your record, but you check in with the VA once a week or once a month or whatever it was. And
for how long?
I don't know. Like, didn't care. Fuck you. Not guilty. Let's go to trial. Then they came back, third time. I'm telling you, I had 4 or 5 appearances. And they were like, oh, you had a DUI in 2008. I did have a DUI in 2008. All deals are off the table. Like, you're a fucking repeat offender. So, like, we're going after you and we're going after you hard. I'm like, cool. Let's go to fucking trial or whatever. And then, like, the final one, the DA, that fucking guy finally was there. Because sometimes it was different people. It was weird. The negotiations, it was weird how all that happened. That was the shadiest, weirdest part about the whole thing. Is I feel like, because they have a professional working relationship. So I don't know how it all works. But it came back the final time, my guy, I had all these printouts. I had the printout of Granado and the news story, because it was a public news story about him killing the guy and the $600,000 settlement offer. I had the thing.
That was the guy who pulled you over?
Yeah. No, that was the off-duty cop.
That's what I mean. The off-duty cop.
Yeah. I had the other thing was they couldn't fucking produce him. The state was trying to be, they're like, because from the DMV hearing, he was on admin leave. I have a right to my accuser. They couldn't fucking produce this guy because he was on administrative leave. So they were still trying to figure out how, like, you're trying to offer me deals and plea bargain. You don't even have a fucking cop, dude. Like, I knew that from the DMV hearing. I don't know if they knew that I knew that from the DMV hearing because I had already had the DMV hearing. But I knew Granado wasn't a fucking active cop at that time, or pretty much. Like, unless he had just been reinstated or something. And they're like, so they finally, they're like, my lawyer's like, he's fucking, you know, we had the DMV hearing. I showed them the paperwork. The DMV finds there's no cause for action at this time. Granado killed, like, we showed him all the shit. The 5th time we go before the judge, the district attorney's like, Your Honor, in the interest of justice, the people would like to dismiss all these charges against Mr. Friedman. I was like, I said that. I was like, oh, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. I thanked the guy. I was like, I'd like to thank everyone for their time. It was real cool. I was like, thank you. So, I was super curious about how I was willing to do 3 months in jail and learn about all that shit. Because I was going to go to trial. Because once they set that, then there's more days. There's jury selection. There's evidence. There's there's pre-trial. There's disclosure. Like, you got to show me all. That's why nobody ever goes all the way. Because I was excited to go all the way to full trial. See it all the way. Because the most I've gotten to jury is I've gotten called for jury duty a bunch of times. And I made it to where I was sitting in the basement. And the guy upstairs made a plea deal right before he went to jury trial or whatever. Like, it's all game. It's all game.
How many times have you been called for jury duty?
Fucking, I guess since I've been pulled over like 100.
Really?
Like, ever since I'm down here, every 5 minutes they're like, "Oh, jury duty, jury duty." I haven't got one recently, but.
And so, what do you mean? What do you mean by not going all the way? So you just sit there.
On Friday. You call on Fridays, and they're like, "We don't need you. We don't need you. We don't need you." And then once they're like, "Yeah, show up this Monday at the courthouse." And then I was in the basement all day, and then they're like, "No, they made a deal. We don't need you."
So it's mostly deals being made.
It's all deals, baby.
All right, so where can people find you?
I don't want people to find me.
All right, you don't want people to find you. Very well. I don't know if you wanted emails or if you wanted people to find you on social media or...
We have a cause we're plugging. Mostly I plug your shit. We plug in a cause today, Glenna. IVEDC.
Canines for camis?
That's Schoemer. That's what I'm saying. Usually I plug his shit.
Camis and canines.
Yeah.
Canines and canines?
Cammy's work.
You said something weird. It was a little off, but it's okay.
Oh, I was going to plug Andrew's shit.
Oh, did you find it?
Nope.
Okay.
There's,
Well, that's all right.
Black Horse Training.
Jason
Black Horse.
with his youth wrestling.
Who?
We're going to a comedy show.
Oh, there's local shit. If you don't know where Imperial Valley, California
We
is,
have nothing to... Imperial County Film Commission. I'm on that.
you're on the... No, here's a fun fact to brag about locally. The character, no shit, go watch Men in Black. No, not Men in Black.
You know there's a new
Go
Men in
watch-
Black coming
You
out?
know Law and Order SVU?
No, hold on. No, stick with it. Go watch the original Independence Day movie. The original Independence Day movie. And it says Imperial California, the crop duster guy. That fucking crazy crop duster guy.
And what about him?
He's from Imperial California,
Randy
baby.
Quaid.
Oh,
And he's local. He's a local guy. That's his claim to fame.
Drunk
That's the,
crop duster.
that's the family. That's it.
Also,
did you know that there's another one coming out?
Donald Logue and Shara are from here.
No.
There's another Men in Black coming out.
Oh, is it really?
Yep.
Oh, I'm excited.
And it's a woman in black.
Of course it is.
Oh, we didn't even get it. We didn't even get into all that stuff. I learned in school.
No, that's okay. We'll have another opportunity to do
I'm
this.
sure will. This was fun.
Was there anything else that you want to say to everybody?
No, not at all.
I think we nailed everything. So,
right.
all right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode.